Chapter 3609. After seeing the Mirror of Rebirth, she was sent to the 18th level of Hell for punishment. In the 18th level of Hell, she made a friend and found out why she ended up like this. The original owner of the body, whose resentment had already dissipated, was now filled with resentment, shocking the three realms. Everything started with Tang Shui-er. Tang Shui-er was not a mortal. She was the daughter of Goddess Shui. Once, Goddess Shui had an epiphany and received a decree that she needed to go to a certain place to make snow fall. This snow would bring many disasters to the mortals. This winter would be very difficult. Since Goddess Shui needed an epiphany, she sent her daughter, Tang Shui-er, to make snow fall. This snow would last for 3 months, and it had to be heavy snow every day. Tang Shui-er used a divine weapon to make snow fall, and it snowed for a month. The villagers, who were not rich to begin with, had a hard time. They could not find any fresh vegetables. Many people even froze to death. Tang Shui-er was not moved by this. Until she saw a young man digging for food in the snow and bringing it back to his mother. He would even share the leftovers with the neighbors. He did this every day until his hands were swollen. Tang Shui-er was curious why this young man was so persistent. She turned into a mortal and went down to meet the young man. After a while, she was moved by the young man's persistence and kindness. She often heard him say that if the snow continued, many people in the village would die. The young man's hands were already swollen beyond recognition. Tang Shui-er could not bear to see him like this. Later on, when it snowed, she made it easier for the villagers. Originally, the young man's family would not be able to survive this. Not only did Tang Shui-er make the snow fall, she even married the young man. A day in heaven was a year on earth. The celestial emperor soon found out that there was not enough snow. He sent people to catch Tang Shui-er and the young man to ask the reason. Tang Shui-er made 2 mistakes. First, she sympathized with the mortals and reduced the snow. Second, she married a mortal. The celestial emperor could not forgive these 2 mistakes. In the end, Tang Shui-er was banished to the mortal world by the celestial emperor and suffered. Wherever Tang Shui-er was born, there would be all kinds of natural disasters. In each of Tang Shui-er's lives, there would be thousands of people suffering because of her. That mortal and Tang Shui-er still had a connection, so the deities of the heavenly palace were furious. They wanted to teach the 2 of them a lesson. The celestial emperor gave the order that as long as the 2 of them met and were together, countless people would die because of the disaster. They would also suffer for a lifetime. If they were able to overcome the difficulties of their 10 lifetimes and walk together, then it would be a predestined fate, and the heavenly palace would no longer stop them from being together. It could be said that both Tang Shui-er and that mortal were willing to suffer in the cycle of reincarnation. They even made a bet with the celestial emperor that the 2 of them would definitely return after experiencing hardships. When that time came, they asked all the immortals not to interfere with them. Thus, they descended to the mortal world to experience a calamity. The life of the original owner was the 10th life of the 2. As long as they were able to walk together despite the difficulties in this life, they would be able to resolve the resentful ghost king that was the original owner of this body. Then, they would be able to obtain the fruits of their blessings. In the 18 levels of hell, the original owner learned of this from her new friends. Her resentment exploded and she became an evil spirit of the 3 realms. No one could stop her resentment. She hated it. It was clearly the fault of the immortals. Why did they have to implicate mere mortals like her? They even destroyed her family. After that, the original owner's resentment soared to the sky and broke through hell. She led countless evil spirits to attack the heavenly palace, causing a huge commotion. However, she still lost in the end. She could not win. She had to fight against the heavenly palace. There were too many capable people there, so she could only die unwillingly. The Peak. Chapter 36:10. After looking through all the memories, Tangua's heart was filled with a strong sense of grief and indignation. She could completely understand the original owner's hatred at that time. Because she was an ordinary person and not strong enough, her fate could be calculated by the so-called immortals. Did she do anything wrong? Obviously, she didn't do anything wrong. The biggest mistake was that she wasn't strong enough. The original owner couldn't become strong enough to fight against immortals, but she could. Calculating the time, she had only been here for half a day. The original owner's parents and brother were still alive. The original owner's mother hanged herself a few days later. Now, the whole family should have been released and chased to the beach. Thinking of this, Tangua changed into a blood-red dress and put on a red face scarf. She jumped onto the boat from before and rowed towards the beach near the family Tang village. At this time, the sea was very calm. There was even some smoke rising faintly. Suddenly, there was a woman in red rowing on the sea. It was a bit strange. Tangua didn't row towards the beach. Instead, she waited on the sea. With the smoke covering her, it was impossible to see her without looking carefully. It wasn't until she saw 3 people stumbling over from the shore that her expression changed. The woman's heart-wrenching cries couldn't be covered by the wind and rain. At this time, it started to rain again. The woman's voice didn't become softer. Instead, it became louder and louder. It was like thunder, full of grief and sadness. God, do you have eyes or not? You want the rain to flood this place. What does it have to do with my Gua? Why don't those heartless people come and see? Did the rain stop after killing my Gua? Did it stop? Gua, Mother's good Gua. It's all Mother's fault. If you had listened to your father and left early, you wouldn't have suffered this. It's all Mother's fault. It's all Mother's fault. Tang Shushan hurriedly supported the crying Lu Mulan. Although she didn't cry as hard as Lu Mulan, her eyes were still red. There was sadness, anger, and hatred in them. It's my fault. I shouldn't have brought you back to worship our ancestors. If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't bear to leave this place and insisted on coming back to pay respects to my ancestors, Gua wouldn't have been in trouble. I shouldn't have used all the money I brought back to buy food and give it to these heartless people in the village. Tang Shushan's voice was trembling as he said, "What's the use of being kind? What's the use of being benevolent? What's the use of pitying those pitiful people? Everything can't compare to a single sentence from a demon. In the end, we ended up helping a bunch of ingrates and harmed our Gua. I'm useless. I didn't protect you well. Don't worry, I'll avenge you and punish those foolish people." Tangua's brother, Tang Yao, also had red eyes at this time. He said angrily, "Father, Mother, why don't I go and kill them all to avenge my sister? My sister was burned alive by them. I will never forgive these executioners. Father, Mother, if you agree, then let me stay and kill everyone in the village. It's all my fault for being careless. I didn't expect them to drug my sister and take her away. If I had been more careful, my sister wouldn't have died." "Yao, you can't." Lu Mulan hurriedly stopped him. "I've already lost Gua. I can't lose you too. Let me and your father handle this. Leave the village immediately. Your father and I will take care of it." The Apex. Chapter 36:11. It's better to report this to the authorities and ask the county magistrate to uphold justice for Gua. Tang Shushan said, "Yao, don't say what you just said. This method is not advisable. You're still young and shouldn't waste your life because of this matter. You should leave this place first. Your mother and I will think of a way. Father, mother, how can I leave at this time? Tang Yao retorted. How could he leave the village and his parents in this situation? He wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't seek justice for his sister. Yao, listen to your father. Leave first. Tang Shushan thought more than Tang Yao. It's reasonable for me to let you leave first. If your mother and I can't seek justice for your sister in front of the county magistrate, you can think of other ways. You must seek justice for your sister. If you can't go to the county magistrate, you can go to the capital. Tang Yao understood now. Tang Shushan wasn't sure if he could seek justice from the county magistrate. He let him leave first just in case. But Tang Yao was still unwilling. He thought that this method was too slow and might not succeed. Father, the villagers are heartless and unjust. I think it's better to kill them to avenge my sister. Tang Shushan scolded, there are thousands of people in the village. Do you think we should kill all of them? At least those young girls and children are innocent. Yao, killing them won't solve the problem. In fact, I also want to kill those murderers. But Yao, how sure are you that you can kill them all? Our family doesn't know martial arts and we didn't bring any attendants back. Most of the money we have is gone. Do you think killing them is helping your sister seek justice? It's better than letting my sister die in vain. Tang Yao said stubbornly. In his opinion, how could those heartless people in the village be more important than his sister? Innocent or not, he had eaten their family's food and accepted their family's kindness. At the most critical moment, even if he wasn't an accomplice, he was still an indifferent bystander. He had never spoken up for his younger sister. They were all a bunch of selfish and cowardly people. His most beloved sister was dead. Why would they care so much? Tang Yao couldn't go against Tang Shushan's words. He reluctantly agreed to not do anything to the villagers for the time being. All right, father, I'll promise you first. If there's no result, I'll use my own method to avenge my sister. Don't stop me. Hearing this, Tang Guo couldn't help but shake her head. Although Tang Yao had thought of many ways to kill the people in this village, he had not succeeded. Ever since they used the sacrificial method, the evil Taoist had been in the village. That evil Taoist was indeed quite capable. After the death of Tang Shushan and his wife, Tang Yao first planned to seek redress for their grievances, but he encountered many obstacles. After failing in his official career, he went to learn martial arts. When he returned to the village to seek revenge, he was stopped by the demon Dao and his martial arts were crippled. Later on, Tang Yao poisoned the well in the village. It was discovered by the evil Taoist and stopped all of this. After the villagers found out, they beat Tang Yao up again. As the saying goes, the first spurt of energy, the second spurt of energy, and the third spurt of energy. The successive failures brought a heavy blow to Tang Yao. Unable to avenge his family, Tang Yao went crazy. In the end, he became a madman that everyone laughed at. After Tang Yao went crazy, the evil Taoist left the village. Until the vengeful spirit of the original owner returned to the village and turned the entire village into a ghost village, devouring the souls of the culprits. Tang Guo felt that all of this happened too coincidentally. Peak. Chapter 36:12. It was as if the evil cultivator had been staying in the village to protect the villagers. He was waiting for the original owner to kill the villagers and become the Ghost King. This must be a conspiracy. This sentence echoed in Tang Guo's mind. Since those immortals and gods like to scheme, and the heavenly emperor wanted to punish the daughter of the snow goddess, there was no reason for the snow goddess to watch her daughter suffer. Maybe she secretly used some method to help her daughter escape. Maybe the original owner was the stepping stone for her to escape. Didn't those immortals descend to the mortal world to experience a tribulation after making a mistake? She once read a book. The monsters in the book couldn't die if they had a background. Even if they ate countless people in the mortal world, as long as the monster's master appeared, he could take them away. As for those without a background, they couldn't escape death. It was really a joke. Tang Yao followed the original plot and agreed to Tang Shushan and his wife's request to leave first. Tang Shushan seemed to be prepared. He handed the bag in his hand to Tang Yao. Yao, when you return to Jiangnan, sell your belongings and goods. You can focus on studying and won't care about these things. Guo was good at these things. I wanted you to focus on your studies and let Guo take care of the family business. Now that Guo is dead and you're not cut out for it, forget it. Use some of the money to buy houses and fields. You can keep the rest for yourself. If we spread bad news, you can think of another way to help Guo. Okay, father. Originally, Tang Yao did follow Tang Shushan's plan. He bought houses and fields. When he found out that his parents had failed to redress their grievances, his father killed himself in front of the county office and his mother hanged herself. He planned to study hard and redress his family's grievances with the right path. Unexpectedly, when the county magistrate, who didn't care about anything, found out about this matter, he created countless troubles for him. In the end, he even got involved in a lawsuit. He was falsely accused of raping a civilian girl and stealing property. He was sentenced to a good time in prison and lost his qualification for the imperial examination. After knowing the truth, Tang Yao didn't want to use the right path to resolve this matter. Later, he returned to the village to seek revenge. Unfortunately, he failed. The fate of this family was very tragic. They weren't evil people, but they didn't have a good ending. God was really blind. Father, mother, take care. Tang Yao didn't say much this time. He carried the bag and turned to leave. Tang Yao would be fine for the time being, so Tang Guo didn't go with him. Tang Shushan and his wife cried on the beach for a long time before leaving. Host, aren't you going to bring them to the island? The system sounded puzzled. If we bring them to the island now, won't everything be solved? Everyone in this family is kind-hearted. Tang Shushan and his wife won't understand what I'm going to do if they don't experience true despair. It's better to let them experience the helplessness of the heavens and the earth before they go. If she could, she didn't want this couple to suffer. However, a kind-hearted person would always be kind to someone if they didn't suffer more and experience despair. She didn't intend to let anyone in this village go. Although she wouldn't kill them all like the original owner, she would still give them the revenge they deserved. Didn't they think that they could stop the flood by sacrificing the young girl to the Dragon King? She wanted them to understand that it was useless to give the Dragon King the sacrificial maiden. Vertex. Chapter 36:13. Because the couple might die in a few days, Tang Guo didn't return to the island to cultivate. Instead, she planned to follow the two of them and accompany them to experience despair. After solving the couple's problem, she would return to the island to cultivate. Tang Guo put on the invisibility cloak made by Qi Shao and followed the couple. She also planned to take a look at the evil cultivator who instigated the villagers to sacrifice young girls to the Dragon King. She didn't believe that this was a coincidence. There must be some scheme behind it. Tang Shushan and his wife supported each other. Lu Mulan was almost leaning into his arms. She didn't have much strength left after the heart-wrenching cry. Husband, will the county lord really care about Guo's matter? Lu Mulan asked with uncertainty. What should we do if he doesn't? Madam, we still have Yao. Yao is good at studying. He loves Guo the most. If we fail, Yao will definitely come back to redress Gua Er's grievances. I asked Yao to sell our belongings and move away from our previous place. I hope that he won't be implicated for the time being. Even if we fail to sue the county government, we still have Yao. So, husband, you don't have much confidence that the county lord will redress Gua Er's grievances, right? Lu Mulan understood Tang Shushan's silence. You're afraid that we'll get into trouble if we fail. That's why you asked Yao to leave first. Do you still remember who we saw walking into the county yamen when we passed by it when we first came back? Lu Mulan shook her head in confusion. She didn't notice that at that time. Along the way, she saw many people in her hometown suffering. She was thinking about what she could do to help them. She was busy asking where to buy food. I saw that evil cultivator. He entered the county government office. Tang Shushan's expression was heavy. But I don't know what relationship he has with the county lord. I don't want to leave just like that and let Gua die in vain. I don't know if the county lord will side with the evil cultivator or those fools. That's why I asked Yao to leave first. No matter what, I'll listen to your decision. I knew you'd be like that. That's why I didn't ask you to leave. You'll definitely stay wherever I go. The two looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The two of them returned to the village and met many villagers. When the villagers saw them, their eyes avoided looking at them. They didn't know if they felt guilty or guilty. The two of them, who used to be kind to others and always had a smile on their faces, didn't even look at the villagers now. At this moment, a skinny woman walked over. Sister Lan, don't be too sad. The Taoist priest already said that this is the will of the heavens, and the will of the heavens cannot be changed. Who told you to draw your miss in this lottery? In the future, as long as the Dragon King doesn't get angry, we will always remember your daughter. We will give her a memorial tablet and worship her every day to thank her. Hearing this, Lu Mulan almost fainted from anger. Gratitude. Kneel and worship. Did her Gua need it? Besides, not everyone can become the princess consort of the Dragon King. Maybe your daughter is already enjoying life in the Dragon Palace. The Taoist priest said that this is a blessing, not a bad thing. Lu Mulan looked at the skinny woman with her hands clasped in front of her in a respectful manner. She felt nauseous. She really couldn't hold it in and slapped the woman's face. You heartless thing, shut up. Vertex. Chapter 36:14. Ouch. Why did you hit me? The skinny woman did not expect that Lu Mulan, who usually looked gentle, would hit someone because of a disagreement. Lu Mulan did not seem to have much strength, but the slap made her dizzy. Her face was burning with pain. If it were not for the fact that she had no flesh on her face and her skin was sallow, her face would have turned red and swollen. The skinny woman was indeed gloating over Lu Mulan's misfortune. After all, she was jealous of Lu Mulan. Lu Mulan used to be a cowherd in the village. She was lucky enough to be married to Tang Shushan. Tang Shushan brought Lu Mulan out to do business, and it was successful. Lu Mulan lived a rich life. How could she not be jealous? What made her the most upset was that Tang family had come to her house to ask for her hand in marriage. Tang Shushan was just a poor boy. How could she like him? He did not even have a sheep, let alone a cow. He only had an old hen. Who knew that Tang Shushan would be so successful? Every time Lu Mulan returned to her hometown, she would be dressed in gold and silver. The skinny woman was jealous. Now that Lu Mulan had lost her beloved daughter, she was really happy. Moreover, the Taoist priest was a master. Sacrificing Tanggua could appease the Dragon King and prevent another flood. It was a good thing. You are the one that I hit. Lu Mulan was shaking with anger. She gave the skinny woman another slap. The skinny woman screamed in pain. The skinny woman did not want to let it go. She rushed up and wanted to fight with Lu Mulan. Tang Xushan quickly pulled Lu Mulan behind him. He did not feel anything wrong with Lu Mulan hitting the skinny woman. No matter how kind a person was, they would not be able to tolerate such offense. Seeing this, Tang Guo stretched out her leg and tripped the skinny woman. The skinny woman fell to the ground and her face hit the uneven stones. This fall caused her face to be covered in blood and her face to be disfigured. This is called retribution, Lu Mulan said breathlessly. Tang Xushan saw that the situation was not right and quickly brought her back. Tang Guo stood beside the skinny woman and held her chin. She felt that the village should be haunted. It did not make sense that they could live a peaceful life after the original owner was burned to death. Tang Xushan and his wife stayed at home the whole day. They had a simple meal. Madam, eat more. We have to go to the county office tomorrow. What if you have no energy? Okay. They did not have an appetite, but they still tried their best to stuff. When the sky was dark, Tang Guo saw the skinny woman and her husband lay down. She went to the skinny woman's house and lit a candle. Wearing an invisibility cloak and holding a burning candle, he wandered around the skinny woman's house. Looking at it with the naked eye, there was only a candle floating in the air. It was very strange. She pushed the door open and went to the skinny woman's room first. A candle suddenly lit up the entire room, waking up the skinny woman and her husband. They opened their eyes at the same time. Through the candlelight, Tang Guo saw all kinds of scars on the skinny woman's face. It was obvious that she fell this afternoon. It looked very scary. The skinny woman and her husband were frightened when they saw the candle floating in the house. Tang Guo did not say anything. She held the candle and wandered in the house. While they were in a daze, the candles floated to their mosquito nets and lit them up. The fire crackled and burned, just like the sound of the burning boat when she woke up. The skinny woman and her husband felt the fire grow bigger and bigger. They ran out with pale faces and shouted, "Ghost!" Chapter 36:15. Tang Guo wasn't in a hurry. She went to the other rooms in their house. After waking them up, she lit their mosquito nets or clothes in front of their eyes. Watching them run out in horror, she couldn't help but laugh. This really scared them. After scaring them out of their wits, she returned to Tang Xushan and his wife's courtyard and went to the original owner's room. She planned to lie there for the night. As for the other houses in the village, she would burn them tomorrow night. The strange fire in the skinny woman's house quickly woke the other villagers up. Tang Guo only burned their mosquito nets and didn't burn their clothes. She didn't plan to burn everything. So, although the fire was strange, it was quickly put out by the villagers with water. Tang Xushan and his wife were also awakened by the noise outside. They put on their clothes and helped each other to walk to the fire in the village. When they walked to the crowd, they heard people talking about the strange fire. The skinny woman and her family were talking about the scene with lingering fear. The skinny woman was called Mrs. Lu. At this time, the torch shone on her face. It could be seen that her face was deathly pale, and her eyes were filled with infinite fear. She was holding the arm of a short man, and her body was trembling. What I said is true. Our whole family saw it. There was a candle floating around in the dark night. It was that candle that lit the mosquito net in front of me. Mrs. Lu looked around in horror. Now that there were many people, she was not so scared. But, thinking of the previous scene, her legs couldn't help but tremble. She told the story with a trembling voice. After that, she hesitated and asked in a low voice, "Do you think she's back?" After Mrs. Lu said that, everyone felt a chill run down their spine. At the same time, a cold wind blew around them. It was very scary. Originally, the people in the village believed it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have agreed to use young girls to worship the Dragon King. Mrs. Lu's words made everyone's heart beat fast. They were very scared. Among the people present, only Tang Shushan and Lu Mulan were not afraid, but their eyes were filled with tears. If possible, they really hoped that their daughter was back. No matter if she was a human or a ghost, as long as she returned to their side, they would be satisfied. However, his daughter was already dead. She was burned alive by the villagers. If his daughter had really turned into a ghost and suffered such a great injustice, how could he just light 2 fires and let it go? Thinking of this, the two of them sighed and turned to leave. Let's go. We still have to go to the county office tomorrow, Tang Shushan said in a low voice. Lu Mulan nodded. The two of them supported each other and were about to leave. At this moment, a voice came from afar. Everyone, there's no need to be afraid. I've already checked. There aren't any ghosts. It was the one who had bewitched the villagers to sacrifice young girls to the Dragon King. The moment this person appeared, he attracted Tang Guo's attention. Tang Guo was standing in the crowd. The invisibility cloak she was wearing was made by Qi Xiao. With the Tao of Yao, they shouldn't be able to discover her. As expected, when the demonic Taoist passed by her without her noticing, she understood that this demonic Taoist was not that powerful. He was just slightly stronger in the eyes of these ordinary people. Taoist Qinghong, is it really not Tang Guo's ghost? The villagers were still worried. They quickly surrounded the Taoist and asked. The peak. Chapter 36:16. This Taoist's name was Qinghong. Everyone who talked about him called him Taoist Qinghong. Taoist Qinghong saw that the villagers were scared. He stroked his beard and said, "Don't be afraid. Tang Guo went to be the Dragon King's princess. How could she become a ghost? The fire you set earlier in the day was only to help her break free from her mortal body. Now that she is no longer an ordinary person, her soul has been refined. She has already gone to the Dragon King's palace. If the Dragon King is satisfied, he will not be angry and cause a flood here." Taoist Qinghong's words were clear and logical. Most of the villagers believed him. After all, they had seen Taoist Qinghong's ability with their own eyes. Leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls was not a problem. The last time the flood happened, 2 children were almost washed away by the water. Fortunately, Taoist Qinghong suddenly appeared and grabbed one child in each hand. Like a fierce dragon crossing the river, he floated up in the water and saved the 2 children. How could such a capable person deceive them? When the villagers relaxed and looked at Taoist Qinghong gratefully, Tang Shushan and his wife returned with ugly expressions. Facing this executioner who killed their daughter, it was not that they did not want to fight with their lives, but they knew that they were not a match for him. If they fought with their lives, they would only make a fool of themselves. It was also because of Taoist Qinghong's existence that Tang Shushan was not sure if he could succeed tomorrow. Moreover, even if the county magistrate helped to uphold justice, who could do anything to Taoist Qinghong? When the two thought of this, their eyes dimmed. But, Taoist Qinghong, why was my house on fire? I saw a candle floating around my house with my own eyes. It almost burned my house down. Fortunately, we extinguished it in time. Madame Lu raised her doubts. It was not that she did not believe it, but what she saw made her feel that she was haunted by something unclean. Taoist Qinghong was also confused. Tang Guo was burned to death in the sea with resentment and turned into a resentful spirit. It was impossible for her to return here in a short time. Madame Lu would not lie to him. He had already checked and did not find any traces of a wandering ghost. Perhaps it was some wandering ghost that got lost. I will give you 2 talismans. Stick them on the door and they will not dare to come near. Madame Lu gratefully accepted the talismans and the stone in her heart loosened. When the others saw this, they hurriedly asked Daoist Qing Hong to bestow a spirit talisman. This Daoist Qing Hong seemed to be very easy to talk to. If the villagers wanted it, he would give it to them. No one was left out. Tang Shushan and his wife thought that they had gone far, but they were stopped by the village chief. Shushan, take this with you. I don't want any ghosts to come to your house and cause trouble. Tang Shushan suddenly laughed and pushed the village chief away. Village chief, what you said is ridiculous. I, Tang Shushan, have lived for more than half of my life, and this is the first time I think this place is a joke. I, Tang Shushan, don't need such a thing. If there were really ghosts and they put these things in their house, wouldn't their daughter stop people from entering the house when she returned? Therefore, he didn't need it. The village chief stood awkwardly in the same place. Looking at the backs of Tang Shushan and his wife, he said, Shushan, this is fate. Who told the Dragon King to get angry and cause floods here? This is fate. We will remember Guo. Taoist Master Qing Hong said that she is now the Dragon King's princess consort and is enjoying life in the Dragon Palace. Vertex. Chapter 36:17. Stupid. Tang Shushan turned around and snorted. Stupid to the extreme. That night, the couple didn't sleep much. The other people in the village had a good sleep with Taoist Qing Hong's talisman. Although Mrs. Lu's house wasn't completely burned, most of the mosquito nets were burned. That night, Mrs. Lu's family members were bitten by mosquitoes. When they woke up in the morning, there were many swollen spots on their bodies. Early in the morning, Tang Shushan and his wife ate something and went to the county office. Although it wasn't time for them to die, she still went with them. She accompanied them to beat the drum and complained about the injustice. She watched them being fooled by the county magistrate. No matter what they said, they were always evaded. In the end, they were even driven out. The county magistrate listened to them with an impatient face. He didn't look surprised. Obviously, he knew something. She didn't know if Taoist Qing Hong told him something, or if there was a deal between them. Anyway, this county magistrate didn't look like a good person. The two of them left the county yamen in a sorry state and walked towards the village. Husband, should we give some money to the county magistrate? Lu Mulan asked. After all, they were businessmen and knew a lot of things. Lu Mulan didn't say that at first because she didn't want to offend the county magistrate. But now, the county magistrate didn't want to listen to them. Maybe he didn't want to get any benefits. There were too many cases of county magistrates getting benefits. She didn't find it strange. But this made her feel even more uncertain. It's useless. That's a corrupt county magistrate. The things we have are not enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Then what should we do? Lu Mulan didn't know what to do. No matter what, we have to get justice for Guo. We can't let her die in vain. It's not like we didn't get anything today. I heard that a patrol officer came to the county. Let's go there in 2 days. As the saying goes, when you're unlucky, you can't even drink water. From the storyline, Tang Guan knew that their plan would fail. The official who came to inspect the village was in cahoots with the county magistrate. Tang Guan knew that their plan would fail. Even so, Tang Guan didn't care. Tang Shushan and Lu Mulan were kind people. As long as they didn't reach a dead end, they would always give in. They would always be merciful. What she wanted to do in the future conflicted with their ideas. She didn't want to see this happen. He might as well let them experience despair. That night, Tang Guo wore the invisibility cloak again and took a candle to burn the mosquito net in the village chief's house. As for why they had to burn the mosquito net, it was because there were a lot of mosquitoes in summer. Nothing was better than burning the mosquito net. If it was winter, she would burn her quilt and cotton clothes. The village chief's house was on fire. It was that strange candle that burned all the mosquito nets in the village chief's house. It didn't take long to put out the fire, but it made the villagers panic. In this situation, Daoist Qing Hong was somewhat unable to judge. With his cultivation, ordinary wandering souls and ghosts would not dare to come. After all, almost everyone in the village had his talisman, but he didn't understand the situation of the village head's family. For several days, Tang Guo burns the mosquito nets of the villagers. In the end, Daoist Qing Hong's mosquito net did not escape either. The villagers looked at Daoist Qing Hong's robe, which had just been extinguished, with some doubt on their faces. They began to doubt Daoist Qing Hong's ability. I'm guessing that it's not a ghost, but a fire demon. Moreover, it's a fire demon that has gained intelligence. If it's really powerful, it won't just burn this little. Everyone, don't worry. I'll catch the fire demon as soon as possible and destroy it. Peek. Chapter 36:18. On the day of the inspection, Tang Shushan and his wife went to intercept the sedan chair. They didn't succeed. They didn't even see the sedan chair's face. Tang Shushan and his wife were in despair. They decided that since the county couldn't do anything, they would go to the capital and report to the emperor. Their movements were loud enough that the county magistrate had noticed them. On this day, Tang Shushan went to the county to sell some of his belongings. Lu Mulan stayed at home to pack. They planned to leave the next morning after exchanging the money. Today was the day Lu Mulan committed suicide. Tang Gui chose to go with Lu Mulan instead of Tang Shushan. When the sun was about to rise, Tang Guo heard some noises coming from outside the courtyard. It was a messy sound of footsteps. Then, she saw a group of people barging into Lu Mulan's room. They seemed to be going straight for Lu Mulan and wanted to do something bad to her. Looking at their merciless behavior, Tang Guo finally understood why Lu Mulan, who only wanted to avenge her daughter, would commit suicide all of a sudden. If that was the case, everything could be explained. Tang Shushan was a smart man. Why would he commit suicide in the county office out of impulse? It was because he knew what happened to his wife. He felt that the heavens were unfair and lost all hope. His wife died unjustly. He couldn't take it anymore and decided to commit suicide in the county office. At least that would make the county magistrate have nightmares for 2 days. Now that Lu Mulan has encountered such a situation, Tang Guo couldn't just stand by and watch. No woman in any era would be able to bear this kind of suffering. When those men grabbed Lu Mulan and tried to hurt her, Tang Guo took out a knife and cut their necks without hesitation. She didn't care if Lu Mulan was scared or not. Lu Mulan would experience this kind of thing many times in the future. She would get used to it. The system felt sorry for her. Lu Mulan was originally in despair. She didn't expect these people to suddenly fall to the ground while clutching their necks. While she rejoiced, she saw them twitching on the ground with blood flowing out of their necks. Their faces were indeed pale from fright. Tang Guo ignored Lu Mulan. She cleaned up the corpses and the blood. She had no intention of showing herself from the beginning to the end. Just a moment ago, she changed her plan slightly. She didn't want to bring Tang Shushan and his wife to that small island. She wanted them to live here and see with their own eyes the people who killed their daughter, one by one, receive her revenge. Regardless of whether it was these bewitched villagers, the corrupt official in the county, or the group of immortals in the sky. The scene in front of her was like an illusion. She had clearly almost encountered the most terrifying thing just now, but those people had their necks slit inexplicably and the scene had been cleaned up. All of this made Lu Mulan feel like she was dreaming. She rubbed her eyes and saw the bruise on her wrist. She knew that this was not a dream. Who is it? Who's helping me? Lu Mulan looked around and asked, but no one answered. Tang Guo returned to her courtyard and decided to cultivate in her family Tang's courtyard from now on. With her around, no one could do anything to the family Tang couple. In the future, they could live here peacefully. They would be able to see things that made them happy every day. The system looked at the bright smile on Tang Guo's face and shivered. To be honest, it had been a long time since the system's data went haywire. Peak. Chapter 36:19. After cultivating for a while, Tang Guo suddenly remembered that the two of them were planning to go to the capital. She believed that they wouldn't succeed even if they went there. Moreover, she didn't want the two of them to leave this place. If they weren't here, how could they see what she was doing? Therefore, she decided to visit them in their dreams at night, telling them not to leave their hometown and to live a good life here. Of course, she visited them in their dreams as their daughter. In the afternoon, Tang Shushan came back and saw that something was wrong with Lu Mulan. After asking, Lu Mulan told him everything that happened today. She still felt that it was ridiculous. She was afraid that Tang Shushan wouldn't believe her, so she rolled up her sleeves and showed him the bruises on her wrists. This is what those people grabbed. They used a lot of strength. Husband, this isn't fake. At the critical moment, it seemed that their necks were cut by a knife. Blood came out from their necks and they all fell to the ground, twitching. After they died. In the blink of an eye, their corpses were gone and the blood on the ground was cleaned up. Lu Mulan said blankly, but I didn't see the person who did it. If that person didn't do it, I don't want to live anymore. Tang Shushan was still afraid. He believed Lu Mulan. He hugged Lu Mulan tightly. No matter where we go in the future, we will be together. I won't let something like this happen again. They had lost their most beloved daughter, and now, they had almost lost a wife who was always by their side. If something like this really happened to his wife, he knew her character very well. If she really couldn't live, he didn't know what he would do. The two of them hugged each other and comforted each other. They decided to leave the village early tomorrow morning and go to the capital. Why don't we leave in the middle of the night? Those people came for you today. It's too strange. They didn't come earlier or later. We are about to go to the capital. Tang Shushan calmed down and analyzed the current situation. This world, sigh. I don't know if I can redress Guo Er's grievances when we reach the capital. Lu Mulan's eyes reddened. Yes, this world was too difficult. Why was her Guo Er's life so bitter? That night, Tang Guo visited them in their dreams. In her dream, she transformed into the original owner's wedding dress and used her powerful soul power to enter their dreams. Her soul was very powerful. Tang Shushan and his wife were just ordinary people, so it was very easy for her to enter their dreams. When the two of them saw Tang Guo in their dreams, they were very excited. They hurriedly hugged her and shouted happily. Ever since that incident, they had not dreamed of their daughter a single night. They thought that their daughter resented them because they were incapable. Father, mother, are you planning to go to the capital to seek redress for me? Tang Shushan nodded. Your mother and I went to the county office a few days ago, but the county magistrate didn't want to get involved in this matter. Yesterday, something almost happened to your mother. This is not a good place. We have decided to go to the capital. Maybe there is someone who can take care of these things. Tang Guo said, I know what happened today. Dad, do you think it was just an accident? Do you think you can get out of here and go to the capital? Tang Shushan fell silent. Father, if you trust me, then stay in Family Tang Village. Don't worry, as long as you don't leave Family Tang Village, I can protect you. Lu Mulan, who had been silent all this time, had tears in her eyes. She hurriedly asked, Guo, was it you who helped me today? Guo, it was you, right? It must be you. You were the one who protected Mother. Mother's good Guo, it must be you. Other than you, who else would do this? Guo, don't you blame Mother. The Peak. Chapter 36-20. Guo, your father and I are useless. You died a wrongful death. We couldn't avenge you, so you couldn't reincarnate and became a wandering ghost. Lu Mulan was sure that the person who helped her was the soul of her daughter. Apart from her daughter, who else would help her during the day without anyone knowing? Her daughter was the one who became a wronged soul. She must have stayed in the world of the living because they didn't avenge her. Tang Guo didn't deny what happened during the day. She reminded them to stay in the Family Tang Village. She would protect them and not let them be bullied. Tang Shushan had calmed down. He looked at Tang Guo and asked, Guo, what do you want to do? Guo, the village was on fire a while ago. Did you do it? Tang Shushan wasn't angry. He couldn't sleep well after his daughter died. What happened during the day made him doubt the ways of the world. His daughter was killed in such a way, but the villagers pretended to be ignorant and told him that his daughter went to the Dragon Palace to enjoy life. When the county lord found out, he also kicked him out. Even his wife was implicated and almost met with a mishap. These past few nights, the encounter with the fire demons in the village was the best time for the couple to vent their anger. Tang Shushan wasn't angry. Instead, he felt that they had taught their daughter to be too kind. Obviously, he had forgotten about the corpse that Tang Guo had disposed of before. I did it. Father, do you think it's inappropriate? Tang Shushan's face suddenly became serious. He said angrily, what's inappropriate? There's nothing inappropriate. I understand now. The villagers might know the truth. They're just pretending to be ignorant. They said that you're enjoying life in the Dragon Palace. Who doesn't know that they killed you? Otherwise, why didn't they send their daughter to the Dragon Palace for such a good thing? Even if some people were foolish, not all of them were just pretending to be ignorant. Tang Shushan felt more and more upset. He knew what kind of people the villagers were, but why couldn't he let go of this place and bring his family back? If they didn't come back, his daughter wouldn't have died. Father, don't worry. I won't kill the innocent. It's just that after my death, there's a resentment in my heart that can't dissipate. If this resentment does not dissipate, I will never be able to reincarnate as a human. As soon as he said that, the couple became anxious and hurriedly asked what they could do. Dad, Mom, you don't have to do anything. You just have to live well and stay in Family Tang Village. Tang Guo didn't intend to say more, although she couldn't let the couple experience the feeling of being on the verge of despair again. However, she would let the couple see the faces of the villagers so that they would not be soft-hearted at all. This time, no one was able to convert her. She was not someone who could be moved so easily. After Tang Guo leaves their dream, she lights a calming incense for them and then goes out to burn other people's mosquito net clothes. Early in the morning, Tang Shushan and his wife woke up. They looked at each other and told each other about their dreams. They realized that it was exactly the same. They were both sad and excited. Smelling the nerve-soothing incense in the room that had yet to disperse, their eyes were filled with tears. It's Gua-er. It's really Gua-er. Lu Mulan looked at the ashes of the incense and sobbed in Tang Shushan's arms. Gua-er is back. Hubby, we won't leave. We'll stay in family Tang village. We won't leave. Tang Shushan patted Lu Mulan's back. We'll listen to Gua-er and stay in family Tang village. The Peak. Chapter 36-21. Tang Shushan still had his own thoughts. Previously, when he tried to seek justice for his daughter, he repeatedly ran into a wall because the officials protected each other. The county magistrate obviously didn't want to get involved in this matter, so he must know something. Gua-er was right. They were probably being targeted. Perhaps they would be harmed before they could leave the county. Yao had already returned to Jiangnan. That child was filial and loved her sister dearly. She would definitely do as he said. Then, the couple would stay in family Tang village and live honestly. When the county magistrate found out, he might think that they had given up on seeking justice and wouldn't bother Yao anymore. This could be considered as a smokescreen. After making up their mind, Tang Shushan and his wife decided to renovate the courtyard. After all, they would be staying here for a long time in the future. The two of them were looking forward to the night. When their daughter left yesterday, they made a request to her. They hoped that she could visit them more often. Perhaps because of what happened yesterday, Tang Shushan was especially worried about Lu Mulan being alone. Lu Mulan said that she wanted to go to the beach to wash clothes, and Tang Shushan insisted on going with her. In the end, the two of them washed together. This was very rare in the village. Ever since that incident, they didn't talk to anyone in the village. Some of the people in the village probably felt guilty. They knew that the incident had a big impact on the couple, so they didn't say anything to anger them. Tang Shushan and his wife heard people not far away talking about whose house had caught fire last night. The breath that they had been holding in their hearts was released. They didn't pity the villagers at all. How many times had they been bitten by mosquitoes? They only felt that it was very satisfying. Tang Gua kept following the couple. The couple washed clothes by the beach while she sat on the side and cultivated. Wearing the invisibility cloak, no one could see her. It wasn't that she wanted to follow them, but she was a little worried that Taoish Qing Hong was still in the village. Not long after, she sensed Taoish Qing Hong's aura. He was walking towards Tang Shushan and his wife. When he reached a certain distance, he stopped and stared at their backs with a strange expression. How is Madame Lu still alive? When Taoish Qing Hong saw Lu Mulan, he couldn't help but whisper, "That's strange. I clearly saw that Madame Lu didn't have many days left to live. She should have died yesterday." This Taoish Qing Hong did indeed have some ability. He was actually able to tell that Lu Mulan should have died yesterday. Tang Gua could tell from the other party's expression that the other party was just confused about this matter and probably didn't participate in Lu Mulan's murder. Strange, strange. Taoish Qing Hong shook his head and turned to leave. After some time, Taoish Qing Hong once again appeared near Tang Shushan and his wife. He stared at them and murmured, "Why is this Tang Shushan still alive? Logically speaking, he should have died the day before yesterday, right? It's as if the mysteries of heaven have been concealed. I can't divine anything." Tang Gua observed for a few days and discovered that Taoish Qing Hong had some cultivation. Knowing that Tang Shushan and his wife had escaped death and did nothing to harm them, he felt a little relieved. In the next dream, she gave the two of them amulets and asked them to wear them. She had just started cultivating and was still weak. Although she had the skills, she couldn't make an amulet of this level. She asked Qi Shao to help her. Qi Shao, sister, this amulet of mine is definitely the best one I can make. It can definitely ensure their safety. You can go do your own thing without worry. The story that Tang Guo told them made the people in the group very angry. The Peak. Chapter 36-22. Campus Bell, thank you, Brother Qi Shao. Fortunately, with your help, I won't be in a mess. Qi Shao, you must be joking. Who doesn't know your ability? Even without me, it would be more troublesome at most. I heard your idea before, and I'm currently refining a magic weapon. When you have followers, I'll send them to you for your followers to use. Ziyun, I have a lot of elixirs here. Some are edible, and some are used to attack people. Have you heard of soldiers from beans? If you don't have enough followers, I'll refine more soldiers from beans for you. Those people will be annoyed to death. Margaret, I still have a lot of charms. Campus Bell, if you need anything, just tell me. I guarantee that when they go out, they will fall first and be blessed by bad luck. Mo Yuntian, it's a pity that this is a group red packet, and you can't send it to others. If you can, I'll send some disciples to help you. Shangguan Yonggu, I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough to help Martial Ant, but I'll work hard to cultivate. In the future, Martial Ant will definitely need me. Everyone in the group was thinking of ways to help Tanghua. This time, she was going to deal with the Heaven Realm. According to the level they knew, she was going to fight against the Celestial Realm. This was not something that could be done easily. Those were immortals and gods that had existed for a long time. When the time came, it would definitely be a big battle. Tanghua gave the amulet to Tang Shushan and his wife. She did not stay by their side at all times and concentrated on cultivating. In addition, she took time to find Tang Yao in his dreams. She gave an amulet to Tang Yao and told him not to act rashly. She told him to study hard. Only when he stood in a high position could he have the opportunity to do what he wanted to do. After Tang Yao woke up, he held the amulet in his hand. He was clearly a grown man, but he was sobbing uncontrollably. He quickly promised that he would do as he was told and that he would not be impulsive. He would walk step by step to the highest point and help his sister seek justice. After everything was arranged, Tanghua cultivated in the house on the island during the day. She still cultivated the power of the stars and did not absorb spiritual energy. The main reason was that she was afraid that the spiritual energy would change and attract the attention of the Heaven Realm. She needed time to grow now, so she must not let anyone find out that something was wrong. In addition, at night, she would go to the village and burn one house a day. She didn't burn too many. She just went in with candles and burned them in front of their eyes after waking them up. She found it funny when she saw those people running away in fear. This kind of thing happened every night for 2 months. Daoist Qinghong was still unable to solve it, causing everyone in the village to panic. Some people were even secretly discussing whether Tanghua had really come back to take revenge on them. Tanghua was burned to death in the fire, so the fire that appeared every night, was she taking revenge on them? They asked Daoist Qinghong to solve the problem. Daoist Qinghong was also very helpless. He couldn't find out what was causing trouble, let alone catch the other party. One day, Madame Luke suddenly asked a question. By the way, whose house hasn't been burned by the demonic fire? I found something strange. Why hasn't the family Tang been burned even once? As soon as she said this, she immediately turned the spearhead to Tang Shushan and his wife. The village chief hesitated for a moment, but still decided to take people to the family Tang to take a look. Tang Shushan and his wife were working in the yard when the villagers suddenly came. While they were at a loss, Madame Lu opened her mouth to express her doubts. The Peak. Chapter 36-23. Tang Shushan was so angry that he laughed. We didn't do anything wrong. The fact that the demonic fire didn't burn us means that it has good eyes. Village chief, what do you mean by this? Could it be that because the demonic fire burned you and didn't burn us, you're unwilling to give up and want to make trouble for us? Tang Shushan glanced at the villagers coldly. It's not my decision that the demonic flame likes to burn you. Instead of coming here to look for trouble, why don't you talk to him and ask him when you've offended him? Taoist Qing Hong was also here. It was strange that Tang Shushan's family didn't encounter the demonic fire. After checking, he shook his head at the village chief. The village chief smiled awkwardly and left with his people. The Lu matriarch was still unwilling to give up. Lu Mulan was now angry whenever she saw the Lu matriarch. She immediately said, if you suspect us, then arrange for someone to guard our door at night and see why the demonic fire didn't burn us, but only you. My husband is right. We've done too many wrong things. The demonic fire can see everything clearly. Its eyes are clearer than human eyes. Many people felt guilty and decided to leave. The fact that the demonic fire didn't burn the family didn't have anything to do with the family. They should go back and think of other ways. That night, Tang Guo went to Lu Mulan's house with a candle. She woke up the Lu family and scared them out of the house. Lu Mulan asked the villagers to disturb Tang Shushan and his wife. Of course, she had to find them. She took out the clothes, quilts, and other things that could be burned from Lu Mulan's closet and threw them in the yard. Then, she set them on fire. Lu Mulan's family huddled in a corner. Their faces were pale, and they trembled as they watched everything. They cried loudly. The fire in Lu Mulan's yard and the cries of Lu Mulan's family attracted the attention of the villagers. Taoist Qing Hong ran over immediately, but he didn't see anything. He couldn't do anything to the demonic fire. Tang Guo stood in the corner and looked at the villagers who were busy fetching water to help Mrs. Lu put out the fire in the yard. The water splashed on the clothes. The fire was put out, but the clothes were almost destroyed. This time, Tang Guo burned all the clothes and quilts in the Lu family's house. Daoist Qing Hong, what should we do? Madame Lu complained tearfully to Daoist Qing Hong, Daoist priest, you have to think of a way. If that fire demon burns every day, sooner or later my house will be burned down. What Tang Guo didn't tell Mrs. Lu was that she wouldn't burn down their house, because there would be a flood soon. At that time, their house would be destroyed by the flood. Didn't they think that the young girl worshipping the Dragon King would be able to solve the flood? She would tell them that it would never be solved. However, in the storyline, Daoist Qing Hong had cast a spell to help stop the flood, so the village did not suffer many losses. This time, she would not give Daoist Qing Hong the chance. While Mrs. Lu was speaking, Tang Guo took a candle and lit Qing Hong Taoist's robe under the frightened eyes of the villagers. Daoist priest, the demonic fire is here. Mrs. Lu was so scared that she hurriedly went back. She saw that Tang Guo was burning Taoist Qing Hong's hair and beard. After lighting it up, she put out the candle and turned back to the family Tang courtyard, ignoring what happened behind her. When the villagers saw with their own eyes that Qing Hong Taoist couldn't do anything to the demonic fire, they didn't have much trust in him. It was also from this day onwards that Tang Guo often found trouble with Qing Hong Taoist. The Summit. Chapter 36-24. But what made her curious was that no matter how she tormented Daoist Qing Hong, the other party had no intention of leaving family Tang village. No matter how the villagers questioned him, he was still polite to them and was not angry at all. Every day, he was thinking of ways to deal with the fire demon, as if he was a real master of cultivation. The more it was like this, the more Tang Guo felt that there was something fishy. What was the reason for Daoist Qing Hong to be like this? She was very curious. Tang Guo did not burn the things in the village anymore because the flood was coming. Originally, with Daoist Qing Hong's obstruction, the flood was diverted away, so the people in the village did not encounter the flood at all. Of course, the villagers did not know the truth and only thought that the girl worshipped the Dragon King was right. This matter was spread out, and one person spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, causing many places with natural disasters to come up with such ridiculous methods. That was how the host went to those places with ridiculous behaviors, killed the participants, and brought back the victims. All of this made Tang Guo feel that some people were scheming, making the original owner fall into their trap step by step and finally become the Ghost King. This Ghost King full of resentment was prepared for Tang Shui. These things really can't be thought about. The more she thought about it, the more cold sweat she broke out. About half a month later, Daoist Qing Hong, who had been under Tang Guo's surveillance, sneaked out of the village. His face was a bit serious, but also a bit excited. Tang Guo saw that something was wrong and followed him. Unexpectedly, Daoist Qing Hong went to the foot of the mountain behind the village and chose a place to sit down and wait quietly. About afternoon, thunder sounded in the sky, followed by a torrential rain. The rain was very heavy, and soon countless ditches formed on the hillside. Some stones and sand were even washed down. The mountain flood appeared. Tang Guo understood that this should be the so-called flood. She saw Daoist Qing Hong take out a magic weapon and block the flood at the foot of the mountain, leading the water to the seaside. Seeing Daoist Qing Hong let out a sigh of relief, Tang Guo walked in front of the magic weapon, took out the highest grade sword, and fiercely chopped at the magic weapon. Before Daoist Qing Hong could react, the mountain torrent rushed down and rushed towards the family Tang village. After doing all this, she hurriedly returned to the family Tang village and took out a Dharma treasure to cover the family Tang village tightly. When Daoist Qing Hong saw the mountain torrent rushing towards family Tang village, he shouted that something was wrong and hurriedly ran towards family Tang village. As soon as he entered family Tang village, he shouted, "A mountain flood is coming. Everyone, quickly take shelter." Daoist Qing Hong hurriedly went into the house to grab people and brought them to a safe place. Some people heard Daoist Qing Hong's shouts and quickly ran away in fear. They were all too familiar with this kind of situation. They didn't even think about it and just instinctively ran. Tang Shushan and his wife were still at home. They didn't hear anything because they were protected by Tang Guo's magical treasure. During this time, no one came to call them even once. The mountain torrent rushed down and quickly rushed to family Tang village. The people in this place had long learned how to deal with floods and ran faster than rabbits. The village chief and the others who were hiding on another hillside saw the village being washed away by the mountain torrent in an instant. Their expressions were very ugly. The village chief turned around to count the people and found that Tang Shushan and his wife were not there. His expression changed greatly. "Where's Tang Shushan and his wife?" They didn't run up. Everyone was busy running for their lives. How could they care about them at that time? Madame Lu said. "This is also fate. This flood came so suddenly. Who could have predicted it?" Although the village chief felt a little uncomfortable, at this time, no one was willing to go down to look for them. Daoist Qing Hong also said, "Maybe it's fate." He felt strange. Could it be that the mountain torrent that the magic weapon couldn't stop was to take the lives of the family Tang couple? After all, they should have died long ago. "Look, what's that?" Suddenly, someone screamed and pointed in the direction of the village. Peek. Chapter 36-25. The mountain torrent that was rushing down Tang village was unstoppable. However, when it reached Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard, the torrent seemed to have a mind of its own. For some unknown reason, it split into two and circled around the courtyard, taking a detour. The village chief and the rest were standing at the top of the hill. They could clearly see what was happening below. The scene in front of them left them dumbfounded. They were shocked and a little uncomfortable. Mrs. Liu almost lost her voice. How can this be? Why did the flood bypass Lu Mulan's house? Not a single drop of water went in. Oh my God, is the flood blind? Tang Guo couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. The flood clearly had eyes. How could it be blind? Taoist Master Qinghong, quickly take a look and see what's going on. The flood has passed through everywhere. None of us were spared. Why did it bypass Lu Mulan's house? Look, they even split into two. That courtyard is perfectly fine in the middle. It's not affected at all. This is too strange. Madame Liu almost didn't ask if there was some kind of monster causing trouble, causing this scene. Is it really the Dragon King's blessing? Tang Guo has become the Dragon King's princess consort. Tang Shushan couple is naturally the Dragon King's father-in-law and mother-in-law. If the Dragon King knows that the flood is coming, he will definitely protect them. Someone in the crowd started to discuss. Their faces were uncertain. In their hearts, they didn't completely believe in the maiden-worshipping Dragon King. It was just a fluke. But now, they couldn't help but believe in the maiden-worshipping Dragon King. Isn't the worshipping Dragon King created by all of us? Why is the Dragon King protecting the Tang Shushan couple instead of our village chief? Someone asked. Mrs. Liu suddenly said, I know. Tang Guo must be holding a grudge against us and deliberately told the Dragon King about this. Tang Guo is so beautiful. The Dragon King is addicted to her beauty and listens to everything she says. Perhaps she was the one who instigated the Dragon King to flood the city. She's here for revenge. Yes, that must be it. This is bad. Mrs. Liu's words sounded like a fantasy story, but after thinking about it carefully, some of the villagers believed it. Even the village chief was a little confused. If that wasn't the case, why would Shan Hong purposely avoid Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard? Could it be that Tang Guo really held a grudge against the villagers and gave the Dragon King a pillow talk? Daoist priest Qin Hong, can you tell what's going on? The magic weapon that Tang Guo used to cover Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard was an immortal item refined by Qi Shao. Although Daoist Qin Hong had some attainments, it was impossible for him to see through it. Therefore, he did not see anything. Even he was puzzled. Did the Dragon King really exist? As far as he knew, spiritual beings like dragons were a thing of the distant past. There was no such thing as a dragon in the present. He had once read some ancient books that recorded that the dragon clan had been exterminated due to a rebellion many years ago. Becoming the Dragon King's concubine. That was just a lie. But this flood was really strange. His magic weapon couldn't stop it and had to take a detour around Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard. He really couldn't see through it. Although he couldn't see through it and couldn't explain it, Daoist Qin Hong couldn't tell the villagers the truth. He nodded his head according to their train of thought. Perhaps, it's true. The Dragon King is a powerful dragon god. We can't understand him. The peak. Chapter 36-26. Daoist Qin Hong's words undoubtedly made the villagers believe that the Dragon King had triggered the mountain flood to teach their village a lesson. In an instant, the villagers hated Tang Shushan and his wife. Taoist Qing Hong saw that the villagers were already talking about Tang Shushan and his wife's unkindness. He squinted his eyes and stroked his beard. Although there were many accidents, Tang Shushan and his wife were not in a good situation. They would not have a good life in the future. If Tang Guo's soul were to return, she would definitely hate the people here. It did not seem to affect her becoming a ghost king. Therefore, Taoist Qing Hong did not care about anything. He only needed to let these people live well before Tang Guo's soul returned. The people in this village could only die in her hands. This was fate. When the flood subsided, the family Tang village was in a mess. Many houses were destroyed. The only thing to be happy about was that the people of the family Tang village were experienced. They did not store their food at home. Instead, they hid it in the caves high up in the mountains. It was not as if they ran out of food. However, it was true that they were not full. Is the Dragon King not angry? Madame Lu asked carefully. Should we go and ask Lu Mulan? They must know about what happened today. Maybe they will put in a good word for us in front of the Dragon King. The Dragon King will help us in the future. They wanted to denounce the Dragon King, but they did not know the situation now. If they angered the Dragon King, they would not be able to live well. The village chief agreed with this idea. He led the villagers to Tang Shushan's house. Looking at the clean yard in front of the door, the villagers had mixed feelings. They were even a little jealous. They did not expect Tang Guo to become the Dragon King's concubine. When the flood came, Tang Shushan and his wife saw it. Originally, they thought that they would definitely die when such a huge mountain torrent rushed over. They did not expect the flood to split into two outside the yard. It did not hurt them at all. They thought differently from the rest of the villagers. They did not think that it was the Dragon King's help. They thought that it was their daughter who helped. Tang Shushan heard someone knocking on his door. He opened the door and saw the villagers standing outside in a sorry state. The leader was the village chief. Taoist Qing Hong was not here, but the villagers were still alive, so he had nothing to do with them. As for what these people wanted to do, it was none of his business. Shushan, did you see the situation today? The village chief asked. Previously, the mountain torrent bypassed your courtyard and all the houses in the village were destroyed except for your courtyard. Do you know what happened? Tang Shushan sneered in his heart. He knew that these people were up to no good. Village chief, I really don't know about this. If I knew what was going on, even if I were as capable as Taoist Qing Hong, would I still let you kill my daughter? Tang Shushan, your daughter might have really become the Dragon King's princess consort. Otherwise, why would the mountain torrent go around your yard? It destroyed all the houses in the village and did not come here. It is really strange. Madame Lu said in a loud voice. That's right. Your daughter must have told the Dragon King's pillow talk and caused the mountain torrent to destroy our houses. Tang Shushan was so angry that he laughed. Lu Mulan was so angry that she almost fainted. The Peak. Chapter 36-27. Lu Mulan shouted, My Guo was killed by you. What else do you want? The Dragon Queen. What a joke. If possible, I'd rather have my whole family go through a flood every day than watch my daughter die because of you. You want the Dragon Queen, but we don't. Husband, chase them out. I don't want to see them. Tang Shushan quickly closed the door and gently patted Lu Mulan's back to comfort her. He didn't want her to be angry. The two of them knew that this matter was inseparable from their daughter. However, their daughter was now a ghost, and there was still Taoist Qing Hong in the village. Not to mention during the day, they didn't even dare to talk about it at night, for fear of bringing disaster to their daughter. Tangua saw that they were so cautious, so she would enter their dreams to see them from time to time. After a long time, they only met in their dreams. Fortunately, they were cautious. That night, Taoist Qing Hong, who was suspicious, ran to the roof of Tang Shushan and his wife's house and eavesdropped. Of course, they didn't hear anything for a night, so they dispelled their suspicions and thought that they didn't know anything. However, that night, Tangua met them in their dreams. She didn't hide anything from them. She was the one who split up during the day. The two of them were sobbing uncontrollably in their dreams. They hurriedly asked if this would affect her. After Tangua reassured them, the two of them finally fell asleep. The other people in the village simply cleaned up their houses. Not all the houses were destroyed. They could still live in them after a few days of repairs. The simple repairs of the houses in the village were done quickly. It was those objects that had been destroyed by the flood that made life difficult for everyone in the village. Fortunately, there were many wild vegetables in the mountain, so they didn't starve to death. It was also summer, so they didn't freeze to death without clothes. However, the mosquitoes were a little bit active, so they couldn't rest for the whole night. Do you think there's a Dragon King? Madame Lu was lying on the bed and pushed the man beside her. What happened during the day was really strange. However, Lu Mulan probably doesn't know what happened. I know her too well. If she knew what happened, she wouldn't have almost fainted from anger. I don't know if there's a Dragon King, but what happened today was really strange. What if there really is one? If there is, do you think Lu Mulan's daughter really became the Dragon King's concubine? Why are you thinking about this all the time? If there really is a Dragon King, what can you do? It's not about me. If that girl, Tangua, had been trying to persuade the Dragon King, the villagers would have had a hard time. Summer is the season when the water level rises. If it comes every few days, can we withstand it? Lu Mulan's life is really good. She gave birth to a daughter and even became a princess consort. Madame Lu's words were sour and full of jealousy towards Lu Mulan. Tell me, which of our two maidservants is prettier? If they became the Dragon King's concubines, Tang Guo would definitely fall out of favor. Our two girls are sweet talkers and good at coaxing. I'm sure they'll please the Dragon King. What nonsense are you thinking about? Don't get any ideas. The two girls are already engaged. Let's sleep. Don't talk so much. There's still a lot of things to do tomorrow. Many things at home are gone. If we want to live, we'll be busy. Let's sleep. Aren't we just chatting? Moreover, if the Dragon King really becomes our son-in-law, our good days might really come. The Peak. Chapter 36-28. 10 days later, there was another flash flood. Taoist Qing Hong's magical weapon had been destroyed by Tangua. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to stop the flash flood. He could only remind the people of family Tang to evacuate to the hillside. The same scene happened again. Whenever the flash flood reached Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard, it would take a detour. Not a single drop of water splashed into the courtyard. Seeing this, the villagers were very envious. Although some things were ridiculous, they already firmly believed that Tang Guo was the Dragon King's concubine. They used to pity Tang Shushan and his wife, but now they were envious. Because of their respect for the Dragon King, they did not dare to cause trouble for Tang Shushan and his wife even if they were jealous. Among them, Mrs. Lu almost turned into a sour lemon. After the flash flood, she could not help but say some sour words. At night, she woke up the man beside her and talked about the Dragon King's concubine. At this time, many people in the village had the same thought. They were all wondering if they would be protected by the Dragon King if they gave him their daughter. If that was the case, every family in the village had a daughter. Giving a daughter to the Dragon King would not be a loss. It would even reduce the burden of the family. Giving a daughter could protect the safety of the entire village and become relatives with the Dragon King once and for all. How good would that be? The frequent flash floods in Family Tang Village were arranged by the immortals to punish the daughter of the snow goddess. If it were not for Taoish Qin Hong's reminder, many people would have died. Tang Gua could see the thoughts of many people in Family Tang Village. She had no intention of stopping them. She cultivated at the side and waited quietly. She wanted to see if these ignorant people would give their daughters away. As long as they dared to give their daughters away, she dared to accept them. She was short of manpower. So far, she was the only one on the island. The flash floods became more frequent. If it were not for Taoish Qin Hong's reminder every time, many people in the village would have died. There was one thing that the people of Family Tang Village could not stand. Every flash flood would go around Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard. Once or twice was a coincidence, but 5 or 6 times was not a coincidence. At this time, everyone in the Family Tang Village, including the village chief, believed that Tang Shushan and his wife had hooked up with the Dragon King. If I had known earlier, I would have sent one of my girls to the Dragon King. The Lu matriarch finally couldn't hold it in any longer. The mountain torrents broke out at any time, especially when she was compared to the situation of Tang Shushan and his wife. She almost went crazy thinking about becoming the mother-in-law of the Dragon King. The Dragon King only has one princess now. Wouldn't it be better for a capable man like the Dragon King to have more wives and concubines to serve him? Mrs. Lu's words made many people's eyes lit up. Yes, they all have daughters. It's not a big deal to send one to the Dragon King. Tang Shushan and his wife accidentally overheard a discussion in the village. They found it ridiculous. He went to the village chief and tried to persuade him not to cause such a tragedy. Unexpectedly, the village chief told him that everyone in the village had agreed to send their daughters to the Dragon King as concubines. As long as these girls went to the Dragon Palace, the village would be protected by the Dragon King and would not be flooded again. Even if there was a flood, the Dragon King would protect them just like how he protected the family Tang. The village chief didn't believe it once or twice. But after so many incidents, he had to believe it. He still had a daughter who was not married yet. He also planned to send her to the Dragon King as a concubine. Tang Shushan was angry and tried to stop them. The village chief was afraid that the couple would ruin the plan, so he asked people to block them in the yard and not let them go out. Ridiculous, this is ridiculous. Tang Shushan shouted in the yard. This is ridiculous. They are all alive. They are their own daughters. How can they be so cruel? Because in their eyes, their daughters will belong to another family sooner or later. Lu Mulan's eyes were red. Fortunately, I followed my husband. No matter how angry and helpless Tang Shushan and his wife were, the village was already preparing for the Dragon King's concubines. Dozens of selected girls had already put on their wedding clothes. No matter if they were forced or tied up on the boat, no one cared about them even though their tears had dried up. The Peak. Chapter 36-29. Mrs. Lu kept comforting her daughter, saying with a smile that she was going to serve the Dragon King and enjoy life in the Dragon Palace. Mrs. Lu's daughter was expressionless. She had no way to resist. Mrs. Lu had taught her a lesson when she tried to escape. They had been afraid and watched from afar as Mrs. Tang Guo was sent to the ship and burned to death. Now that it was their turn, they finally understood what it was like to be abandoned by the whole world. This time, it was a slightly bigger ship. All the brides were put on board. Because they were afraid that they would escape, the villagers tied their daughters up tightly. Taoist Ching Hong did not stop the villagers from doing these things. Instead, he let them do it. In his opinion, this was equivalent to giving Mrs. Tang Guo's sole subordinates. If the other party knew about this, the resentment in his heart would definitely be greater. Although the family Tang couple did not die, this was enough to make the other party angry. The ship was pushed to the center of the sea. When it reached a certain position, the villagers set the ship on fire. Ignoring the frightened girls on the ship, they turned around and left. At this time, a thick white fog rose from the sea and covered the burning ship. The villagers standing on the shore only saw the fire in the white fog and did not care about anything else. Tang Guo appeared in front of those women who were filled with despair. She was wearing a red wedding dress, and her appearance was familiar to these women. Tang Guo. A woman recognized Tang Guo and could not help but exclaim. Seeing Tang Guo floating on the water, she asked, "Are you a human or a ghost?" Tang Guo flicked her sleeves and took them all away from the burning ship. They were not far from the island. With Tang Guo's current strength, she could take them to the island. Where is this? They were saved. These women were a little relieved. But when they thought of the previous scene, they still had lingering fears. They really did not expect that in order to please the Dragon King, their family would be willing to burn them alive. Now that you are saved, do you still want to go home? If you don't want to go back, you can stay here. But you have already repaid their kindness. No matter what happens in the future, you can't side with them. Listen to me from now on. If you want to go back, I won't stop you. If you are burned to death next time, I won't save you. Tang Guo, are you dead or alive? The group of women finally remembered. If it wasn't for Tang Guo's appearance, they would definitely have been burned alive. Tang Guo turned around. That's not important. You should think about what to do. I'm not going back. Since you're the one who saved me, it doesn't matter if you're a human or a ghost. My life is yours. Just tell me what you want me to do. I'm willing to be your slave. Why would he go back? Wasn't he just waiting for death? When they thought of the pain of being burned alive, they no longer had any attachment to that place. Then you can stay here. There are fruits on the island and food in the house. If you're hungry, you can eat it yourself. After saying that, Tang Guo's figure disappeared in front of them. They were shocked and thought that Tang Guo was already dead. She was still wearing the red wedding dress. She must have died with her eyes open and became a resentful spirit. Are we really going to stay here? If we don't stay here, where can we go? If we go back, we'll definitely be burned to death. Didn't they say that Tang Guo has become the Dragon King's concubine? I didn't see the Dragon King. Tang Guo must have died with her eyes open. This beautiful place is most likely an illusion created by her. The mountain torrent that took a detour to Tang Guo's house a few days ago might have been made by Tang Guo and not the Dragon King. If you insist on going back, not only will they not be happy, but they might also beat you up and burn you alive. In short, I won't go back. Tang Guo is right. I've already repaid them for giving birth to me. I won't go back to that place anymore. Just now, Tang Guo felt that there was something in the sea. She planned to go into the water to have a look. With her current strength, there was no problem in going into the water. Following a certain aura, she found a desolate building at the bottom of the water. From the surface of the building, it was not difficult to see that it used to be a glorious place. Human, this is not a place for you. A cold voice sounded. The summit. Chapter 36:30. I didn't think that a human like you would have some ability to pass through the barrier and find your way here. If it wasn't for the fact that you don't have the aura of those old farts from the immortal realm, I wouldn't have allowed you to come here alive. I would have swallowed you long ago. I'm not from the immortal realm. On the contrary, I have a grudge with them. In just 2 sentences, Tang Guo could tell that this person had a grudge with the immortal realm. Grudge? That cold voice was silent for a moment, then asked again, what grudge? From your tone, it seems like you want to settle the score with them. Do you know how much you're worth? How can a person deal with those hypocrites? Even those who are stronger than you and have greater numbers might not be able to defeat them. In the end, they won't have a good ending. The grudge of scheming, the grudge of life and death. As expected, that group of people like to control everything from above. They ignore everyone's life and death and don't put anyone in their eyes. Anyone who wants to break the rules will suffer from their vicious schemes. Who are you? Why are you here? Were you schemed against by the immortal realm? Tang Guo looked around at the ruins, but she didn't see that person. This place used to be glorious. Now that it's in such dire straits, does it have anything to do with the immortal realm? You were schemed against by them and ended up in such a miserable state. System, host, how can you expose someone's scars like this? This guy might be your partner in attacking the immortal realm. Let's be friendly, don't anger him to death. What do you want to do to the immortal realm? That voice was still as cold as before. It wasn't angered to death like the system guessed. Instead, it asked Tang Guo another question. But before Tang Guo could answer, it spoke again. If you have such thoughts, you should give up. You're just someone from the mortal realm. Although your cultivation method is a little strange, you're outnumbered. You're not their opponent, and you won't have a good ending. Don't overestimate yourself. The reason why he said so much to Tang Guo was because he had observed Tang Guo for a long time. He was sure that she wasn't someone from the immortal realm. The group of fools on the shore came up with the idea of worshipping the Dragon King. Not only did they humiliate him, they also tainted the seawater. Tang Guo's timely intervention did him a favor. The seawater was not polluted after all. It wasn't that he didn't want to make a move, but if he made any strange movements, he would be easily discovered by the people of the immortal world. Also, it wasn't convenient for him to do anything in his current situation. Even if I give up on revenge, they won't let me go. I'm already a part of the game. They've already calculated my fate. If I don't resist, I can only wait for them to plot against me. That's true. They're a bunch of evil creatures who eat people without spitting out their bones. I think we should be on the same side. Tang Guo changed the topic. Maybe we can work together. You must have some deep grudge against them. Yes, but it's not suitable for us to work together. If you run away, they can kill you with a single finger. The voice was also very persistent. I don't need someone who will drag me down. I've been cultivating for less than 2 months. After Tang Guo said this, the place fell into silence. It was unknown whether the owner of the voice was surprised or thinking about him. Let's not talk about working together for now. After chatting for so long, I still don't know who you are. Even if we don't work together in the future, we can still be friends. I'm guessing that you haven't chatted with anyone in a long time. Peek. Chapter 36-31. You're very bold. Aren't you afraid that I'm a man-eating sea monster? You think I'm afraid of trouble? Tang Guo wouldn't give up on such a great help. Going against the immortal realm was to rope in the enemies of the immortal realm. The enemy of her enemy was her friend. Hurry up and tell me who you are. You have to reveal your identity when making friends. I'm not human. I was once the master of this sea. The voice sounded a little lonely. There was once a palace here. Just as you imagine, it was magnificent and prosperous. My race was very powerful. There was once a war in the immortal realm. Later on, a new immortal realm was created. My race only wanted to live in the sea and didn't want to enter the immortal god record. That's how it ended up. You're from the dragon race. From the beginning, Tangua had some guesses. There were only two races that could build underwater palaces. One was the fish race and the other was the dragon race. However, the fish race's fighting strength was very weak. The only race that the immortal realm feared was the dragon race. That's right. I'm from the dragon race. The voice said. My name is Ao Yen. After the dragon race was destroyed, I've been trapped here for many years. As you said, no one has spoken to me for a long time. This sea seems to be the Dead Sea. It's close to the old site of the Dragon Palace. It's listed as a forbidden area by the immortal realm. No race in the sea dares to approach. The enchantment outside was set up by the immortal realm. I didn't stop them because I thought you would be stopped. I didn't expect you to come in. When Tangua approached the enchantment and arrived at the dilapidated dragon palace, Ao Yen was actually a little excited. There were two reasons why he was still alive. First, he couldn't forget who caused the dragon race's destruction. As long as he was alive, there would be a day for revenge. Second, there was a voice in the unseen world telling him that he must live. He must live. If he didn't, he would miss out on something very important. You're trapped now. Yes. I'm trapped by the enchantment around me and the chains on my body. I've been grinding them every day, but they're too strong. With my current strength, I can't break free. Then where are you? Maybe I can think of a way to help you. Why are you helping me for no reason? Aren't you afraid of provoking people from the immortal world? The enemy of an enemy is a friend. You are an enemy of the immortal realm, so you are my friend. Don't be too sensitive. Do you think I'm a bad person? It doesn't look like it. Ao Yen didn't know why he was so sure that she wasn't a bad person. He clearly knew that humans were hypocrites, and those people from the celestial world were scheming against him. His race had been exterminated, and he had been trapped here for countless years. He should have been suspicious of anyone and never trusted them. But he believed her words. He really believed her when she said she would help him. Ao Yen could not understand this strange situation. It was as if he had been cursed by someone. Then where are you? Let me take a look at your situation first, and then I'll think of a way to help you out. Ao Yen felt that as a member of the dragon race, he had been harmed so badly by others. How could he trust a person whom he had only met once? He even told the other party how to find him. It was a little strange. Following Ao Yan's instructions, Tangua came to a cliff at the bottom of the sea. On these withered rocks, there were remnants of the past glory. Vertex. Chapter 36-32. Ao Yen, where are you? You're of the dragon race and you're being chained up. Your body should be huge, right? But I don't see you. I'm here. Looking in the direction of the voice, Tangua was stunned when she saw Ao Yan's true body. A bone dragon half the height of a human lay sprawled on the ground below a piece of withered rock the height of a human. Yes, this was a bone dragon. Its body wasn't big, nor was it long. It was very different from the dragon she'd imagined. When Ao Yen said he was chained up, she'd thought it was some powerful magic treasure chain that only trapped his body. But she hadn't expected that he wasn't actually chained up. This bone dragon, without any flesh and blood, lay miserably under the withered rock. Those not-so-thick chains had actually pierced through his bones. She didn't know how many bones he'd pierced through, but there were densely packed chains all over his body. Whether it was bones or flesh, one could imagine the pain of such a method of piercing through flesh and blood. Ao Yan's eyes burned with a faint fiery light. He looked at her and said, "Now you understand that you can't help me. They have no intention of giving the dragon race a chance to make a comeback. Even if my clansmen used all their strength to place restrictions on me, it was all for the sake of protecting the only remaining dragon race. The immortal monarch's people also have countless ways to make me a trapped beast that can never break free from these chains." Tang Guo slowly walked in front of Ao Yan. Looking at the chains piercing through his bones, she sat down next to him and said, "I'll think of a way to help you break free from all of this." It wasn't entirely because of the other party's familiar soul aura, but because they had a common goal. They had a grudge against the immortal world and wanted to destroy it. "You're the most ambitious human I've ever seen. Not only are you not afraid of me, you even want to help me. From your eyes, I can see that you're sincere and not scheming. I believe that you're different from the people of the immortal world. I'll check these chains for you and see if there's anything I can do to help you." Tang Guo discovered that every part of the chain had complicated runes. It was impossible to destroy the chain with brute force, and it might even involve the bone dragon's life. They placed a restriction on the chains. "Back then, I was a member of the dragon race and possessed an innate talent. I was the last hope of my race. They used their own power to place a curse on my body. If anyone dared to take my life, there would be very serious consequences. All of the dragons used their blood and souls to cast the curse. No one in the immortal world could resist it. However, they were very cunning. After knowing that they couldn't kill me, they planned to trap me here for the rest of my life." He was also afraid that my talent was too good and would become a big problem in the future, so he used an immortal tool to remove my flesh and blood, and then used a chain to pass through each of my bones, so that the dragon race would never be able to rise again. "Without a body of flesh and blood, I won't be able to cultivate the dragon clan's techniques, and they won't be a threat anymore." Ao Yan's words were very calm, but the listeners could feel the pain he had experienced. Perhaps he had once been angry, stormed past, or cried out in pain, but all of that had happened many years ago. Even if he still hated those people in his heart, he wouldn't be like before and scream his heart out, because it was useless. Tang Guo carefully inspected the chains. She understood that they couldn't be destroyed with brute force, so she began to study the restrictions on them. Ao Yan saw that she was seriously studying them, so he didn't disturb her. When this human hit a wall, he would naturally give up. A day later, Tang Guo remembered that there were still people on the island, so she bid farewell to Ao Yan. "I'll come find you tomorrow." "Okay, I'll wait for you." The Peak. Chapter 36-33. Tang Guo stood up and turned to leave. She kept feeling that Ao Yan was staring at her from behind. She turned around and saw the faint fire flickering in Ao Yan's eyes. This guy was indeed staring at her. "Don't worry, I'm a man of my word. I'll definitely come tomorrow. I said I'd help you, so I'll definitely help you. Don't worry about me going back on my words. I believe you. I'm not worried." God knows why he was reluctant to part with her. He was afraid that she wouldn't come tomorrow. Tang Guo returned to the house on the island. The women in the house were all obediently sitting in the hall, holding fruits and eating. They didn't touch anything else in the house, as if they were waiting for her to return. Seeing her return, they hurriedly put down the fruits in their hands and ran in front of Tang Guo. "Sister Xiaoguo, you're back. They saw that Tang Guo was dressed in red and walked in just a few steps from the door. They were even more certain that this was Tang Guo's ghost. When they thought about how they had almost encountered the same thing, their eyes instantly turned red and their hearts felt terrible. Now she was homeless. It could be said that this was the most relaxed day they had ever had since they were born. They didn't have to work, they didn't have to run for their lives, they didn't have to be beaten and scolded by their families. There were many fruits on the island, so they didn't have to starve. Do you want a way out for the future? Does anyone want to go back? Sister Xiaogua, although you're not human, you saved us. You're better than the people in the village and my parents. My life is yours. I don't want to go back. We don't want to go back either. There's no such thing as a dragon king in this world. If there was a dragon king, why would Sister Xiaogua appear here? You must have died with your eyes open, so you stayed here. Sister Xiaogua is still as good as before. She didn't care about us at all and even saved us. No matter if you're a human or a ghost, we're willing to stay here as slaves. Okay, then you can stay here for the time being. Choose your own room and be self-sufficient. You can grow whatever you want to eat. Tang Guo gave them a few bags of seeds. She didn't plan to teach them cultivation techniques for the time being. These people had not suffered enough blows, they still needed to temper themselves for a while. Tang Guo left again. The women in the hall looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Since Big Sister Xiaogua has said so, then let's do as she says. We can't go back to that home anyway. Even if we go back, only death awaits us. Sister Xiaogua gave us a place to stay, so let's live well. Tang Guo went back to the village. She first went to see Tang Shushan and his wife. She saw that their faces were very pale. It was obvious that they were angry because of what the villagers had done. Now, the people watching them had already left. The two of them were taking paper money, incense, and candles. It seemed that they were preparing to go to the beach. The two of them went to the seaside and offered sacrifices to the women in the village who had been burned to death before. Lu Mulan's eyes reddened at the thought of those women having the same bitter fate as her own daughter. Her tears flowed down uncontrollably. Husband, this place eats people. The people in this place not only ate our daughters, but also their own daughters. I don't like this place. Tang Shushan was speechless. His heart was pained. He looked at the surface of the sea. It was as if he could imagine a group of young women who had lost their lives in this place. They had cried their hearts out. It was so painful that they wanted to die. Even the heavens and the earth couldn't help them. How heartbreaking that feeling of despair was. Peak. Chapter 36-34. Late in the night, Tang Guo entered the couple's dreams. The couple didn't tell her what happened in the village, nor did they ask if Tang Guo was there or where she went. Tang Guo didn't say much either. When the couple fell asleep, she lit a calming incense and left. The next day, she went to the abandoned dragon palace at the bottom of the sea to see Ao Yen. She sat beside him and cultivated while comprehending the restrictions on the chains. Ao Yen saw that she was multitasking and couldn't help but say, I underestimated you. Your strength has improved again. Multitasking, not many people can do it like you. After all, I'm going to deal with the immortal world. I can't stop cultivating for even a moment. Ao Yen tapped his dragon bones. You're right. I seem to see some hope. I saw that your strength seems to be the essence of the sun and the moon. It's the power of the stars. Whether it's the sun or the moon, they all belong to the stars. This kind of power won't be easily exploited by the immortal world. You've thought it through. When the new immortal world was established, the rules gave birth to the immortal God record, which is the new rules. Anyone who cultivates the spiritual energy of the mortal world or the immortal world will encounter a bottleneck when they reach a certain level. If they want to continue cultivating, they have to put their name on the immortal God record, and the rules will allow them to continue cultivating. But the dragon race is different. Dragons have talent and power to inherit. Even if we enter the immortal God record, it won't affect us much. On the contrary, we'll be stronger than ordinary immortals. An uncontrolled dragon race will naturally become a threat to them. The dragon race has already been exterminated. My flesh and blood have been removed by them. It's impossible to inherit my talent and power. So you're saying that you're already a crippled dragon? System, host, have you considered this dragon's fragile heart? If you say that, it'll definitely feel very uncomfortable. You're right. I'm now a crippled dragon. I have a dragon bone body, but I can't do anything. I'm also pierced by these chains. I don't know how long it'll take me to break free. It's impossible in the end. Are you interested in trying out my cultivation method? Didn't your people say that you're the smartest and most talented? Now that your body is crippled, I happen to have a cultivation technique for crippled people. Go and study it. Who knows, it might become a cultivation technique that you can cultivate. Ao Yen, who was originally a little depressed, raised his head and looked at Tangua. You're willing to let me study your cultivation technique? Why not? This cultivation technique belongs to me. I can give it to whoever I want. If you're smart enough to comprehend this cultivation technique, wouldn't you be a great help to me in the future? Do you want to become stronger and kill your way into the immortal world one day? Even in my dreams. Tangua took out a cultivation technique and placed it in front of Ao Yen. This is the cultivation technique. You can comprehend it yourself. Thank you. Tangua looked into Ao Yan's eyes. She seemed to know what he was thinking. He was probably thinking that she was a good person. If I succeed, I won't forget you. When Ao Yen flipped to the first page of the cultivation technique, he was already engrossed in it and didn't continue chatting with Tangua. Tangua continued to cultivate and participate in the restrictions of the chains. The restrictions in every world were different. She only dared to make a move after comprehending them completely. However, this world was relatively special. Even if she comprehended them completely, she wouldn't be in a hurry to make a move. She didn't want to alarm those people from the immortal world. A few days later, the water in the village rose again. Tangua naturally went to watch such a big event. Peak. Chapter 36-35. She felt that it was extremely ugly when she saw those people fleeing to the hillside and discussing angrily about why the Dragon King did not protect them. The villagers stood on the hillside covered in dust and looked at the family Tang village that was being hit by the flood with complicated expressions. It was as strange as before. Whenever the water reached the Tang Shushan couple's courtyard, it would split into two and go around it. Not a single drop of water entered the courtyard. The Tang Shushan couple knew that this was the doing of their daughter who had turned into a vengeful spirit. Every time they saw this scene, they were touched and worried at the same time. Will Tangua be in danger by doing such a thing? Village chief, we have sent our daughter to the Dragon King. Why didn't the Dragon King protect us? Yeah, village chief. Didn't they say that the Dragon King is the most efficacious? Why did he only protect the Tang Shushan couple and not all of us? Did Tangua tell the Dragon King that he doesn't like our daughter? The village chief listened to the discussions around him and felt a headache coming on. He was wearing coarse hemp clothes that had been patched many times. He looked down at the strange scene in the Tang Shushan couple's courtyard without saying a word. He stabbed the crutch in his hand hard on the ground. He also could not understand this. If the Dragon King did not appear and send a flash flood, why did the flood only affect the other houses in the village and not the Tang Shushan couple's courtyard? If the Dragon King was efficacious, all the villagers who had daughters would have sent them to the Dragon King. Now that the flood had risen, the houses were still flooded like before. The village chief was also very conflicted at this moment. Suddenly, he thought of someone. It was Taoish Ching Hong who had informed the villagers in advance. He quickly went to look for Taoish Ching Hong and found that he was surrounded by the villagers. They asked him why the Dragon King did not protect the family Tang village when the flood had risen. If this situation continued, wouldn't they have to move to this hillside if it happened a few more times? However, this hillside was only so big that it could only accommodate one's feet. It was impossible to survive here day and night. Moreover, there was nothing on this hillside. The geographical location was not suitable for building houses. What's more, not only did the flood the houses, but it also flooded the newly planted land. If it weren't for the abundance of wild vegetables on the mountain, he would have starved to death. Although Daoist Ching Hong looked like an immortal at this moment, he was actually very helpless. If the magic treasure in his hand had not been accidentally destroyed, no matter how many floods there were, he would have been able to stop them. However, the magic treasure had already been damaged to an unknown state, and he could not contact the immortal who had given him the magic treasure. That immortal had once said that as long as he completed the mission according to fate, when the mission was completed in the future, he would definitely be recorded as his contribution and be led to the immortal realm. The immortal also said that the people of the original family Tang village should have died in the hands of Tanggua, who had turned into a vengeful spirit. This was fate and could not be changed. What the other party wanted him to do was very simple, and that was to ensure that no one in this village died before Tanggua returned. In addition, there were frequent floods here, which would cause many disasters. That was why he was given a magic treasure and asked to guard this place. Since the magic treasure had been destroyed, even if he could contact the other party, he did not dare to do so. If he angered the immortal, he might lose his chance to ascend to the immortal realm. Fortunately, before every flood, he was able to predict it in advance and inform the villagers to escape. He was able to protect their lives for the time being. Peak. Chapter 36-36. At this time, Daoist Ching Hong really hoped that Tanggua, who had turned into a vengeful spirit, would come back soon. Then, he would be able to leave with success. When the people of family Tang village asked him why the Dragon King did not bless the people in the village, Daoist Ching Hong did not dare to say that there was no Dragon King. This was just a path that the immortal pointed out to him. He said that this was the fate of family Tang village. Even if he did not appear, the people in the village would think of such a way in the future. At first, he was a little confused when he picked Tang Shui. Later, he remembered that the immortal said that no matter what happened, just let nature take its course. Therefore, even though the things that happened later were somewhat different from what he had expected, he always remembered one thing: just go with the flow. Tang Shui's escape and the fact that Tang Shushan and his wife were still alive didn't make Daoist Ching Hong think too much. How can we guess the Dragon King's thoughts? Daoist Ching Hong could not answer, but he could not deny the Dragon King's existence. He could only say vaguely, "Now, it seems that the Dragon King is not satisfied." So, he's not satisfied. Someone muttered and then scolded. Didn't the Lu family boast before that her two daughters were as beautiful as Tanggua? In my opinion, she was overestimating herself. How can they be compared? How can the Lu family's two daughters be compared to Tanghua in terms of appearance and talent? Yes, actually, we know that they definitely can't compare. Our family's girl is considered pretty, but her skin is very dark. Maybe the Dragon King is really not satisfied. Then what should we do? This flood will come once every 3 to 5 days. We won't have a place to live. In this place, no matter where they moved, it was a problem. Moreover, they had moved a few times, but things were very strange. No matter where they moved, they could not get rid of the flood that destroyed their houses. Daoist Qinghong saw that these people did not bother him, so he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and quickly slipped away. The people of Family Tang village did not pay attention to him. They were all discussing how to solve this problem completely. Village chief, why don't we worship the Dragon King again? Someone suggested. Village chief said hesitantly, last time, half of the girls in our village were gone. Can you guarantee that the sacrificial Dragon King will satisfy them this time? Then what should we do? It couldn't go on like this forever, right? All these years, the flood has been against our village. Tang Shushan and his wife were the only ones who weren't afraid of anything. They could live peacefully at home, and the water wouldn't come to their house. It was too unfair. The one his family sent to the Dragon King is a daughter, but the one our family sent over is not a daughter. While the villagers were discussing this, a small number of people in the village were huddled in a corner, fear in their eyes. They looked very helpless and did not know what to do. This small group of people were the lucky survivors. Whether the Dragon King could protect the village or not, they were not willing to go. Now, every night after they fell asleep, they would have nightmares. They either dreamed of their sisters crying in pain as they were burned on the ship, or that they were trapped on the ship as the fire burned their bodies bit by bit. At this time, Tang Guo was also on the hill and saw the expressions of everyone. Why aren't they as smart as you? Why are they so stupid? Ao Yan's voice reached Tang Guo's ears. The peak. Chapter 36-37. It's the same as the comparison between the Dragon Clan and the Immortal Realm. Why is it that both of you have powerful abilities, but why are you being schemed against by them? Ao Yan's voice was filled with anger as he said, that's because they're shameless. After saying this, Ao Yan fell silent for a moment. He had also reacted. There were many things and many people that could not be compared to each other. Why do you still spare the lives of these foolish people who have harmed you? Killing them is a very simple matter, but at the same time, it's also what some people want. Besides, death is the end of everything. The greatest punishment for them is not to kill them, but to let them live in this kind of pain forever. Tang Guo leaned against a huge rock on the hillside and looked at the villagers not far away. You should be secretly observing the humans on the shore from time to time, right? The range here is not far, it shouldn't be difficult for you. You guessed right. At first, I couldn't go anywhere. After my soul recovered, I was able to see a slightly closer range. Then you should know that this place often floods. Tang Guo lowered her eyes and looked at her pair of beautiful hands. Do you know who controls the rain? Many years ago, it was the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan was born with the ability to make rain and control water. However, later on, the Immortal Realm made a new rule. The one who controls the rain is an immortal god appointed by the Celestial Emperor. He is called the Rain Master. As for the Dragon Clan, although they have the ability to make rain, they can't use it casually. Otherwise, it would be against the rules of the heavens. According to what you said, when the people here met with the flood, it could only be the heavens that ordered the Rain Master to do it. Don't you think that this is abnormal? Ao Yan was silent for a moment, then said, it looks like this is a conspiracy. I told you before that I have a grudge with the immortal realm. It's a grudge that can't be resolved. The reason is that my existence in this conspiracy is indispensable. However, this conspiracy started when I escaped from the small island on the fire ship and was already broken by me. If it was according to the original plan, I would not have escaped from the fire ship. I would have been burned alive and become a wandering ghost who was unwilling to reincarnate in the underworld. When I reached a certain level of cultivation, I would return to the village for revenge. During this period, many things happened. If I hadn't stopped them, my parents might have lost their lives. Tanguo looked down the slope and looked at the aggressive water flow. She smiled and said, "Do you think a ghost full of resentment will go crazy after seeing all this?" "Yes." "Will he kill everyone here?" "Of course." "Will it devour their souls in anger?" "Definitely." "Then will she become an evil spirit in this world, hated by everyone and punished by immortals and gods?" Tanguo continued, "If a kind-hearted person comes to reform this resentful spirit, who do you think the credit will go to?" Ao Yan was silent again. Soon, Tanguo heard Ao Yan's mocking laughter. "It's indeed their usual style. You must have inadvertently obtained some kind of opportunity, right? No wonder I kept feeling that something was wrong when we were escaping from the fire ship. The heavens must have given you a chance to live and you even grabbed it." Ao Yan's words seemed to have seen through Tangua's background. Tangua's heart was filled with doubts. She asked, "Since I've changed so much, why do you only think that I've grabbed the chance given by the heavens and not been possessed by some wandering ghost?" Peak. Chapter 36-38. My soul is strong. I can tell at a glance that your soul is very compatible with your body. There's no rejection at all. That's why I made this guess. I see. Tanguo smiled and did not say anything else. Sure enough, no one could tell that her soul was foreign. System, dear host, did you think of something? I haven't seen you struggle with this problem in a long time. Nothing. I just feel that this fleshless dragon likes to brag. He's quite arrogant. He doesn't even know that I'm an outsider. This fleshless dragon must have stayed at the bottom of the sea for too long. He hasn't seen the outside world for a long time. That's why he's so narcissistic. You're right. We can't lower ourselves to the level of a fleshless dragon who hasn't seen the world. System. But dear host, this fleshless and inexperienced dragon should be the one chasing after you, right? By the way, can his flesh grow back? I don't know. It depends on fate. Actually, it doesn't matter if he grows back or not. What's important is that his strength is now growing. He's so powerful that he can attack the celestial world. Dear host, I think you're very strong. You don't mind if your partner is a cat, a rock, or a fish. Now, you don't mind if your partner is a fleshless dragon with only a dragon skeleton. To be honest, it's a bit hardcore. My adaptability and acceptance are relatively strong. You've missed something. The other mission enforcers are all orthodox. The systems are all government employees. They have serial numbers and are authorized. Mine is a wild, the system pitifully said. Let's talk about something else. This topic is not good. It's easy to hurt the deep friendship between us. The rain stopped. The water level slowly dropped and disappeared. Only the mud-filled houses of the family Tang village were left. The people of the family Tang village were busy cleaning up their own houses. They could not think of what to do after thinking for a long time. This is because all the girls in the village are more beautiful than Tanguo. Even if they sacrificed all the good girls, they can't just sacrifice all of them. For a moment, everyone was frowning. Taoist Ching Hong did not walk around the village often. He was afraid that the villagers would ask him for various things. His mission now was to ensure that the people in this village were not wiped out. I have an idea. Why don't we go to Tang Shushan's house the next time there's a flood in the village? Their house has been expanded, and it's big enough to accommodate all of us. Mrs. Lu's suggestion got everyone's approval. Many of them even brought their belongings with them, intending to leave them with Tang Shushan and his wife. The two of them had good characters. They would never accept things that did not belong to them. Everyone in the village felt that it was safe to leave things with them. The village chief thought that this method was feasible. In the future, the important things would be placed with them. They even thought that it would be better to sleep on the floor in Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard. It would be clean and they wouldn't have to worry about any sudden danger. After all, they had the Dragon King's necessities. The villagers rushed into the yard like a swarm of bees. The village chief's persuasion made Tang Shushan and his wife speechless. This was especially true for the women in the village. They tearfully complained to the two of them, saying that they couldn't be so heartless as to watch them die. They couldn't leave them in the lurch. Everyone knelt before them, leaving them with no choice. Vertex. Chapter 36-39. Even if they didn't agree, they couldn't stop them from staying. Since they couldn't chase them away, they decided to enter the dream late at night and talk to Tang Guo about this matter. They didn't want their daughter to be in such a miserable situation because of these villagers. They had already seen through it all these days. The villagers who suffered from the flood were pitiful, but their daughter was even more pitiful. If they continued to help these executioners, they would be letting down their daughter, who even ghosts wouldn't want to go to hell. After entering the dream, they looked forward to talking to Tang Guo, not because they wanted Tang Guo to help them solve this problem, but because they wanted Tang Guo to leave and not help them to stop the flood in the future. If the house was destroyed, they could just tell them in advance whether there was a flood or not, and they could just run to the hillside. In short, they didn't want their daughter to waste her strength to help these people who had hurt her. Hearing the caring words of the couple, Tang Guo understood that even if they were kind, they knew right from wrong and wouldn't say anything for the villagers. That night, she told them in the dream, "Father, Mother, don't worry. I will find a way to make them leave and won't disturb you anymore. Have a good rest and don't worry about anything." After leaving the dream, Tang Guo lit the candle again and set up a formation in the couple's room. Then, she walked to the courtyard with the candle. The originally dark courtyard was illuminated by the candle, waking up some light sleepers. When they saw the candle floating in the air, they screamed. Tang Guo didn't rush and directly lit the only clean clothes on them. No matter how clean they were still a little wet. Although it couldn't burn them, it was enough to scare them half to death. She lit the corners of these people's clothes and laughed. It was very scary in the middle of the night. That night, the Tang couple's courtyard was very lively. A group of people was chased by a candle. Especially when they heard the laughter in the courtyard, they felt their hair stand on end. In the end, they ran away in panic. After that day, no matter what disaster happened in the village, no one ran to the Tang couple's courtyard. They even invited Taoist Ching Hong to catch the ghost. When Taoist Ching Hong came in, he was slapped out by Tang Guo. He couldn't see anyone, but he was slapped in the face. Immediately, Taoist Ching Hong was certain that Tang Guo's vengeful spirit had returned. Just when everyone in Family Tang village was hoping, no one expected Taoist Ching Hong to take out his flying sword, jump on it, and escape. In his opinion, the mission of protecting Family Tang village had been completed. Now that Tang Guo's ghost had returned, it was none of his business. His task was completed, and it was time for him to leave. For the time being, Tang Guo did not plan to do anything to Daoist Qing Hong. After all, she did not want to alert the enemy. The group of immortals above were more conceited. As long as nothing major happened, they would not pay attention to this place. From that day onward, no one in the village dared to interact with Tang Shushan and his wife. They all believed that there was a ghost in the village. Now that Tang Guo's cultivation was very strong, she showed herself in front of the family Tang couple. The two of them hugged her and cried for a while before hurriedly persuading her to reincarnate. Father, mother, maybe not yet. I can't reincarnate. Lu Mulan's eyes reddened. That's true. You haven't been avenged. How can you reincarnate? Guo, find a place to hide. Those people outside already know about you. They will definitely hurt you. Father, mother, you don't have to be afraid. I have a master. Master gave me a lot of magic treasures. Look, I even chased away Taoist Qing Hong. No one can hurt me. This. Tang Shushan hesitated. Tang Guo continued, Master said that I have a lot of karma, and I have to solve them. After Tang Guo said this, the couple remembered her previous methods and did not try to persuade her anymore. From that day onward, Tang Guo wore red clothes every day and went in and out of the couple's house. In order to make it look more realistic, she deliberately used methods to make her shadow disappear under the sun. The villagers were so scared that they trembled. Some even wanted to escape with their families. Every time they had just packed up their things and were about to leave, Tang Guo would wait at their door. In order to scare them, she deliberately put a layer of white powder on her face to make herself look very pale. Her face was pale, and there was no shadow under the sun. It was summer, and the family was so scared that they felt cold all over. Auntie Li, where are you going? Isn't the village good? The village is so nice. Just stay in the village. Okay. After persuading the family to leave, Tang Guo went to stop the others and used the same method to trap them in the village. Even if they ran away in the middle of the night, she could still come out from the grass. It's the middle of the night. Uncle Lin, aren't you afraid of stepping on a puddle and breaking your back? Where are you going? You should go home and sleep. The Peak. Chapter 3640. Yes, I'm sleeping. I'm sleepwalking. If it weren't for the fact that Tang Guo was looking at him with trembling legs and a puddle of water on the ground, she would have believed that he was sleepwalking. Although Tang Guo didn't intend to kill these people, she wouldn't let the family Tang villagers leave. This place had to become a ghost village. Otherwise, why would Tang Shui come back to convert her? The family Tang villagers were tortured day and night. No matter when they escaped, Tang Guo would appear and stop them. After a few times, they really didn't dare to run around and stayed in family Tang village in fear. They didn't dare to go to Tang Shushan and his wife's courtyard. When Tang Guo saw that they had stopped running, she set up a barrier around family Tang village. Those who came in would get lost, and those who wanted to go out would never be able to. No matter how many times they went around in circles, they could only be in family Tang village. In just a year, the family Tang villagers didn't go out even once. They were self-sufficient in the village. People who came to family Tang village once got lost and couldn't find their way at all. After that, the news that the village was haunted and that the entire family Tang village had become a ghost village spread far and wide. Tang Shushan and his wife breathed a sigh of relief that Tang Guo didn't kill anyone. They didn't pity the family Tang villagers. They were afraid that Tang Guo would commit a sin if she killed someone. When that time came, she would be punished when she went to hell in the future. Therefore, the couple didn't say anything when Tangua trapped the family Tang villagers in the village and didn't let them go out. They knew very well that it would take a lot of time for Tang Yao to pass the imperial examinations. They didn't know how long it would take for him to stand in a certain position. They could wait, but their daughter couldn't. The family Tang villagers had caused the death of so many young women. They deserved to end up like this. Nowadays, Tang Guo would occasionally take time to go home and have dinner with the two of them. The two of them were not afraid of her at all. On the contrary, they thought that they were living a good life now. Even if their daughter was not a human but a ghost, at least she was still around. They cherished these days very much. No one could predict how long these days would last. The group of women rescued by Tang Guo and brought back to the island were now self-sufficient on the island. When they saw Tang Guo, they were not afraid anymore. However, they were still in awe and did not dare to get too close to her. These were the subordinates that Tang Guo had prepared for her. She definitely did not ask them to come to the island to grow vegetables. One day was enough for their memories of what had happened to fade a little. It wasn't easy to become her subordinate. She didn't want anyone to drag her down in the future. How is your life here? Tang Guo used a little trick. In fact, it was a slightly more advanced camouflage so that she did not have a shadow. The humans in this world would first look at the shadow under their feet to determine who was a ghost. Those without shadows were all ghosts in their eyes. Therefore, when these women saw that there was no sign of Tang Guo, they did not suspect that she was still alive. When they heard her question, they quickly answered that they were living a good life. You've been here for more than a year. Have you thought about where you'll go in the future? I forgot to tell you that the people of family Tang village probably won't worship the Dragon King anymore. In the past year, there have been countless floods in family Tang village. They already know that it's useless for young women to worship the Dragon King. When Tang Guo said this, she observed the expressions of these women. Some of them looked a little moved. You've all reached the age of marriage. Many of you should have been engaged, peak. Chapter 36-41. Elder Sister Xiaoguo, what do you mean? Tang Guo smiled and looked at the woman who asked the question. What I mean is very simple. I will give you another chance to make a choice. Stay here or go back to live. Hearing Tang Guo's words, these women couldn't help but remember how they came here. A few of the women were very determined and shook their heads quickly. Although there are only a few of us on the island, this year was the best year I have ever had. I was carefree and didn't have to worry about anything. Furthermore, they were the ones who abandoned me first. Why should I go back? Elder Sister Xiaoguo, I still make the same choice. I will stay here. I will stay here. Elder Sister Chun Hua is right. They were the ones who abandoned me first. A woman's eyes were red as she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. That night, I cried and begged them. I begged them for a long time, but they kept saying that they had no choice. Who asked the Dragon King to not protect our family? For the sake of our family, they could only give me to the Dragon King as a concubine. I said that I was afraid of fire and that it was very painful when the fire burned my body. They actually told me to bear with it. My mother doesn't like me at all. Ever since I was born, my family didn't like me. After my mother gave birth to my younger brother, she either hit or scolded me. I had to do all the chores at home. When I was of marriageable age, she didn't want to find a good marriage for me. Instead, she asked a matchmaker to find out that those rich old masters in the county wanted concubines. They didn't even treat me as her daughter and kept saying that I was a waste of money. Therefore, I won't go back. Go back for what? To be tortured by those people again. She wasn't a fool. More than half of the people expressed their thoughts. They didn't want to go back. The remaining half didn't say anything. However, Tanguo could tell that they were hesitating. Even if those people gave them to the Dragon King and didn't want them anymore, they still missed them. You have time to think about it. From tomorrow onwards, I will leave a message on the shore. If you want to leave, row towards the east. You will be able to return to the familiar coast in less than half a day. However, once you leave this place, you won't have the chance to come back. Those who go back can't reveal the situation here. Otherwise, I will make sure that you are doomed. She did lack people, but she didn't need people who were hesitant and would drag her down in the future. After saying this, Tanguo disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. She was so elusive that these people didn't suspect anything at all. Tanguo did not return to her family Tang village, nor did she cultivate. Instead, she went to the ruins of the Dragon Palace in the sea. Why do you want them to go back? Are you planning to nurture them so that they can face the immortal world together with you? Some of them aren't resolute enough. Even if they have strength in the future, it's useless. Even though the people at home had treated them like this, they were still reluctant to do so at the critical moment. They were slightly threatened and compromised. Didn't you say that the people of the immortal world are shameless? How could they do something like that? In my opinion, their choice to leave must have been a mistake. That is also their choice. They will still face many choices in their lives. In order to not affect my future, I can only let them make a choice in advance. Tanguo felt that the color of the flame in Ao Yan's eyes had changed a little. In the past, it was dark. Now, the color was much brighter. Ao Yan's aura also seemed to have become stronger. Ao Yan, have you developed the cultivation method? Peak. Chapter 36-42. I've figured out a part of it. According to the current cultivation method, there shouldn't be any mistakes. Not only is it faster to directly absorb the power of the stars, it can also refine each of my dragon bones. Once I cultivate to a certain level, even the strongest magic treasure might not be able to pierce through my dragon bones. The pain of having his dragon bones pierced through, even after so many years, was still lingering in his mind. It was impossible to erase. I've more or less comprehended the restrictions on the chains. I can help you remove them at any time. There's no rush. They left a backup plan for this chain. Once it's removed from my body, they'll definitely send someone to check on it. With your and my strength, we won't be able to fight them for the time being. Ao Yan raised his head and looked up. We're still lacking in manpower. My dragon race has some old acquaintances. Like the dragon race, they've also been schemed against by the immortal realm. However, they're relatively stronger. The dragon race that's a threat to the immortal monarchs have a better ending. Now, it's time to contact them and have them prepare for the war with the immortal realm. Do you need my help? My dragon race has a special secret method with them. As long as they're still alive, we can contact them. Ao Yan paused for a moment, then said, there are also a few seniors from other races whose souls are imprisoned in the underworld. When the time comes, I'll need to rescue them. As long as they leave the underworld, they'll be able to summon their hidden descendants. They've been waiting for this day. Tanguo recalled the good friend that the original owner of her body had made in the 18 levels of hell. The other party had told the original owner the truth, which had caused her dissipated resentment to gather again. Are there any in the 18 levels of hell? Ao Yen thought for a moment, then shook his head. There aren't any in the 18 levels. However, I've heard those seniors discussing the 18 levels. There's a very strong old monster suppressed there. We don't know him, but he should be very strong. Those seniors have interacted with him before. That old monster knows a lot. According to my guess, he should be against the new immortal god record and was unwilling to accept the immortal realm's jurisdiction. In the end, he was schemed against and suppressed in the 18 levels of hell. Ao Yan's words made Tang Guo very curious. Since Ao Yan was from the dragon race, there were other races and a series of spiritual objects of heaven and earth that hadn't disappeared. They were all secretly making preparations. Then, after the original owner of her body's defeat against the immortal realm, would the new immortal realm in the future really be so peaceful? When the time comes, wouldn't Ao Yan and the others break free and engage in another great battle with the immortal world? But thinking that Tang Shui might be the one with great luck, no matter how well prepared Ao Yan was, he probably wouldn't end up well. I want to take a look at the underworld. Tang Guo did not come up with this idea on a whim. She especially wanted to go to the 18th floor to see if the person who told the original owner the truth was an enemy or a friend. Based on what he knew, the other party should have a grudge with the celestial realm, and it was very likely that they would become partners. Ao Yan didn't stop him. He sprayed something on the ground, and a shiny object instantly appeared. Take this with you. Anyone who is on friendly terms with the Dragon Clan will help you if they sense the existence of this scale. Is this your scale? Yes. Ao Yan hummed in agreement. You have to keep it well. This is my only scale. I hid it during the chaos. When he said this, Ao Yan's tone was somewhat resentful, but also somewhat proud. This is the most precious scale on my body, and it is also the hardest. After being refined by me all these years, it is many times harder than before. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.